The eldest senior brother said, "Little junior brother, you have your own disaster, and the human race has its own disaster. The human race won't die because they don't have you around, and your path won't be broken because you lost the human race. Some people say that they've controlled the heavenly Tao. But the heavenly Tao always operates on its own. No one knows if they have mastered the heavenly Tao, or if the heavenly Tao has mastered them. But if necessary, I will help you once." "Thank you, eldest senior brother." After the conversation, Han Fei calmed down. It was hard to say who would win this round. He had severed the heavenly race door talent and unsealed the primordial star tree, but the heavenly race God had also successfully schemed against him and trapped him in the Thunder Note ancient temple. Han Fei could even understand the thoughts of the heavenly race's God. From his attitude towards Beige, it was obvious that he didn't care about the future of the heavenly race, so he wasn't afraid that Han Fei could leave the Thunder Note ancient temple. If Han Fei could pass the trial of the Thunder Note ancient temple, at most, the heavenly race would be wiped out. But if Han Fei died, not only would the heavenly race survive, but he had also taken revenge on Han Fei. As for whether the Void Temple would take revenge on him, he might not care. Anyway, his plan had been aborted. The survival of the heavenly race was meaningless to him. Only when one had something to worry about would one have a weakness. Clearly, the heavenly race's God had no weakness now. Han Fei calmed himself down. What he needed to do now was to complete the trial. When Han Yu came to ask for help, Han Song would receive him. Whether or not he would return was nothing more than having one more peak. Carefree level combat power, who wasn't even at the immortal level. With Han Song around, it wouldn't affect the overall situation. Therefore, he had to abandon all distracting thoughts now. Han Fei sat cross-legged on the spot. Lei Heng was the only one from the Void Temple who had completed the trial of the Thunder Note ancient temple. His words had to be strictly carried out. Han Fei was not arrogant enough to risk his life. After recovering for a while, he began to study the Heaven Enlightenment Divine Technique. The reason why he studied the Heaven Enlightenment Divine Technique first was naturally for the second level of the trial. He would take the Great Tao of Lightning, but the Heaven Enlightenment Divine Technique was very likely to be his guarantee of survival from the second level of the trial. After all, the Heaven Enlightenment Divine Technique was not a pure purification type Great Tao. He had entered the Tao from the technique. The Heaven Enlightenment Divine Technique was known as the Immortal Divine Technique. It was connected to the origin of the void and activated at the cost of lifespan, summoned infinite healing brilliance. Under the light of the Heaven Enlightenment, the evil spirits were purged and the wounds were healed. Purifying evil was just one of its characteristics. The three true characteristics of the Heaven Enlightenment Divine Technique were firstly the healing divine light, secondly, the extraordinary healing power exchanged for overdrafting one's lifespan, and thirdly, the doubling of one's lifespan. These three abilities were the main focus of the Heaven Enlightenment Divine Technique. Although its power of purification was also strong, it consumed one's vitality. Several months later, Han Fei saw the divine brilliance dancing. He couldn't remember how many times he had separated the power of laws in the divine brilliance. The power of healing originated from the spirit gatherers of the human race. It was to summon the trace of recovery type law, Tao pattern from spiritual energy. The power of purification should be the same. Han Fei separated a trace of the Power of purification with difficulty. After separating the power of purification, Han Fei began to disassemble it. Just like how he disassembled spiritual energy in the past. Just like spirit concentration art, the power of purification can also be gathered. 3 years later, Han Fei suddenly beamed with joy, because a new technique appeared in his mind, a new technique that he created himself. Purification technique, spirit level, ultra quality. Introduction, spiritual energy has a brilliance. The brilliance repels all evil, so it's called the light of purification. The light of purification, based on the quality of spiritual energy, has a small antidote effect. It can remove filth and cleanse the body. Deduced technique, light of purification. Deduction cost, 100,000 points of spiritual energy. Note, the purification technique is obscure and similar to the healing technique. You can cultivate them together. Seeing the introduction of the purification technique, Han Fei put on a smile. Although it was only a spirit-level technique, so what? He had the demon purification pot. Several days later, after Han Fei used up more than 3 million points of immortal qi, he finally deduced the purification technique to a new level. World Cleansing Divine Spell, Monarch Realm, High Quality. Introduction, the World Cleansing Divine Spell can cleanse evil and eliminate dark power. This curse can cleanse the mind, remove illusions, purify the soul, and relieve negative effects. The World Cleansing Divine Spell uses the chaotic spiritual brilliance of the world as a catalyst and summons infinite purifying brilliance. Under the cleansing light, it baptizes the evil in the world. Deduced art, soul cleansing mantra. Deduction cost, 5 million points of immortal qi. Effect 1, the soul cleansing mantra consumes a lot of spiritual energy, chaotic qi, and immortal qi to cleanse the evil spirits and purge illusions. Effect 2, when a cultivator cultivates this Tao, his thoughts will be clear, and the effect will be doubled. This effect will gradually decrease as his strength grows. Disadvantage, those who practice this technique will have lower and lower desires. If they reach the state of no desire, they will have no feelings. Note, anyone who takes this path will be assimilated by nature in their final state. Han Fei frowned slightly after seeing the information of the soul cleansing mantra. It was a good technique, but its drawbacks were obvious. Luo Xiaobai, for example, became more and more indifferent as she grew stronger. If he would end up having no feelings or desires, Han Fei didn't think he would embark on this path even if he was struck to death by lightning. Fortunately, the world cleansing divine spell was still acceptable for now. If his guess was correct, he should be able to manage the next deduced technique, the soul cleansing mantra, but the problem was that it consumed too much immortal qi. This was not the void of the sea of stars, and it was difficult for him to quickly condense the immortal qi. Therefore, at this point, Han Fei decisively gave up. At least for now, the soul cleansing mantra was enough. Next was the comprehension of the Tao of Lightning. 3 months after Han Fei entered the state of cultivation again, Hong Yu arrived in a hurry outside Han Fei's origin star. Master Human Emperor, the war has started. Sea Realm, the training ground of the human race. Almost all the 180 billion humans participated in the war. After 48 years in the wilderness, the first real challenge came. The periphery of the God-fiend sea, where creatures were scarce, saw an unprecedented tide of sea demons. It was impossible to calculate the number of the sea demons. No matter how far The human battle line stretched, the sea demon tide would spread there. The 7-kill army and the 10 legions were guarding the battlefield and all participated in the battle. Sky openers faced the enemy in the void. There were more than 300 strong masters from the Central Sea divine realm, and 2/3 of them were at the carefree level. These people didn't attack but were confronting Luo Xiaobai and the others. Someone shouted, "Where is Han Fei?" Luo Xiaobai looked at him indifferently. Behind her were Lu Qianxi, the god of war, and the 2 elders of the lava giants. In terms of number, they were far inferior to the people from the Central Sea divine realm. However, Luo Xiaobai wasn't afraid at all. She replied coldly, "The human emperor isn't around. I, Luo Xiaobai, am the war commander of the human race. I can represent the human race." "What's the meaning of this?" "Ha ha ha." Someone couldn't help but laugh. "Is there no one left in the human race?" Han Fei ran away and let a sky opener take charge of the human race. Does he think the human race hasn't been destroyed quickly enough? Luo Xiaobai looked at this person coldly and said indifferently, "I admire your courage to speak to me like this." Kill. Bang. The person who spoke was a carefree level cultivator, but he just wanted to steal the limelight in front of everyone, so he mocked. He also didn't think that the human race could do anything to him without Han Fei around. Therefore, when Luo Xiaobai said "kill," he was a little stunned. What made this little girl think she could speak to him like this? Bang. Unfortunately, he underestimated Luo Xiaobai's courage as well as her killing intent. The person who spoke felt that his body suddenly expanded, and his soul was instantly crushed. Then with a bang, he exploded, his body and soul were destroyed, and no corpse remained. Rumble. The great Tao crack in the sky stretched for millions of kilometers, and the people of the Central Sea divine realm were immediately in an uproar. "How dare you? Who is it? Doesn't the Void Temple follow rules? What's the meaning of this?" These people immediately realized that something was wrong. They didn't even see the enemy, but a carefree level cultivator had died for no reason. With such strength, the other party had to be at least an immortal level cultivator. However, if it was just an immortal level powerhouse, they also had immortal level powerhouses behind them. Therefore, they thought the person who dared to kill in such a situation could only be a great monarch level powerhouses of the Void Temple. This speculation made them all horrified. Did the human race have a great monarch protecting them? As a partner who had been through life and death with Han Fei, Luo Xiaobai was not only an intelligent and talented leader, but also a decisive person. She had already discussed it with Han Fei. Naturally, she knew that these people's goal was not Han Fei at all, but the human race. They took advantage of Han Fei's absence to accumulate enough power to attack the human race. They didn't dare to attack ordinary humans, so they had been accumulating their strength for decades in order to crush the human race at one go. Luo Xiaobai and Han Fei both knew that this was a battle that the human race couldn't avoid. Therefore, they accepted this danger. However, if anyone dared to attack the strong cultivators of the human race, Luo Xiaobai wouldn't be polite, especially when Chu Hao had completely recovered. Even if he had to fight to the death, no one on the other side could survive. As the ones who actively seek trouble, targeting the human race was already an act of aggression. When Chu Hao took action and directly killed the opponent's strong cultivator, it not only deterred the enemies, but also served as a warning that if they engaged in any wrongdoing, the human race was also willing to fight back. In the other party's opinion, the person who attacked just now could only be from the Void Temple. This was Han Fei's only and greatest trump card. With such a trump card, they could launch a normal war against the human race. But they couldn't go too far. Luo Xiaobai's voice resounded in the void. The human emperor said that the Void Temple follows rules, but these rules are decided by the Void Temple, not you. As the war commander of the human race, if you disrespect me, it's equivalent to disrespecting the human race. If I say he should be killed, he should be killed. He can only blame himself. So tough? Countless human beings were shocked and a sense of heroism rose in their hearts. This was the leader of the human race. Just like the human emperor, she was as domineering as ever and killed a monarch without any hesitation. On the opposite side, the cultivators looked awful. It wasn't that they hadn't thought of attacking first to kill the leaders of the human race. Someone had even secretly carried it out. However, the perpetrator never returned. Now that Luo Xiaobai had shown her strength in front of them, they couldn't help but feel embarrassed. The one who mocked Luo Xiaobai had already died. If they really attacked now, the Void Temple would definitely not sit by. Once the Void Temple disobeyed the rules and attacked them, they would really have nowhere to run. Therefore, the person just now died for nothing. Luo Xiaobai didn't care about the existence of these people. She even cupped her hands at the void and said, "Senior, anyone who maliciously hinders the higher-ups of our human race from commanding the war can be killed." The creatures in the wilderness of the sea realm were generally not weak. In the vast sea, the strength of sea demons had the structure of an inverted pyramid. Although it was a sea realm, it was impossible for all sea demons to be strong. Strength always began from weakness. Therefore, in terms of the normal strength of ordinary creatures, they were actually between hidden fishers and law enforcers. Correspondingly, they were in the sea demon realm and the sea spirit realm. However, in the trials of the human race, most people were only between hanging fishers and hidden fishers. Although the human race was growing rapidly, many of the 180 billion people had wasted their golden time of life and thus missed the critical period of their cultivation. Most of them had a lifespan of between 500 and 800 years. There were definitely a lot of people in this group, as many as 30 billion. Their upper limit was usually the hanging fisher realm, and they couldn't even become a hidden fisher. This couldn't be helped. If they missed the best cultivation age, their aptitude couldn't be improved, their bodies had too many hidden injuries and too many impurities. It was not easy for this group of people to adapt to the sea realm wilderness. At this moment, the war had fully begun. Chu Hao's disguise as a great monarch of the Void Temple didn't arouse suspicion but directly intimidated the invaders. However, on the ordinary human battlefield, because their realm was too low, the people from the Central Sea Divine Realm weren't worried that the people from the Void Temple would directly destroy these creatures to help the human race. What they wanted was to reduce the number of human beings. As for whether the sea demon tide that they had spent 48 years launching would become a trial for human beings and help them grow, the answer was yes. They knew this very well. But they didn't care. This was because in their opinion, the basic strength of the human race was too poor. Even if they had a short-term growth, it wouldn't affect the overall situation. And the loss of human members was real. Bang! 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 On the human battlefield, Luo Xiaobai saw a large number of low-level human cultivators blowing themselves up. Yes, in the two realms of dangling fisher and hanging fisher, many people knew that their strength couldn't go any further. Some older people, whose lives were about to end, became the first batch of people who died together with the enemies. A large group of low-realm 5-person teams suffered a lot of damage in the face of the surging sea demons. A soul warrior tried to hold back 3 or 5 sea demons, but there were more than a dozen of them, which was completely beyond his endurance. In just 3 seconds, he was pierced through and died on the spot. Upon seeing this, the other members of the team all had bloodshot eyes. Since the recovery of the 5 occupations of the human race, they had formed 5-person teams. No matter who died, it was enough to drive the other members of the team crazy. A spirit gatherer roared. Even though he had desperately tried to save his teammates with spirit concentration art, he could only watch his teammates die. Old Lu, an armorist, died in battle, and the spirit gatherer captain roared indignantly. However, before he finished shouting, the armorist and his armor were trampled, and his body was shattered. The hunter appeared and only had time to kill 2 or 3 sea demons before his legs were cut off by a shrimp. Although the manipulator's reaction speed was fast enough, he failed to pull him back. The manipulator roared, "Captain, it's not that we can't fight, but that there's a fundamental difference in strength. I know that Master War Commander has done well enough, so we have to weather through this battle no matter what. Let's be teammates in our next life." Sister Lin, the woman who spoke, rushed forward without hesitation and was surrounded by the sea demons. Her body was immediately covered by dozens of sea demons. Boom! The power of the self-detonation blew up all the sea demons within dozens of meters. The spirit gatherer captain watched his teammates die one after another, his eyes bleeding. Ah! Older generation, we are already old. We can't witness the great era of the human race, but we will definitely be one of the creators of this era. Brothers, wait for me. The spirit gatherer held an ultra-quality spiritual stone in each hand. Instead of retreating, he advanced without any defense. Boom, boom, boom. Dozens of sea demons were destroyed again, but this level of power was dispersed by other sea demons in an instant. This team seemed to have never appeared. This situation didn't only happen in one team. Many low-realm 5-person teams were facing the same situation. Even if I die, I will become a wall of the human race. Explode. Old brothers, Master Human Emperor has his enemy. Master War Commander has her enemy. And we also have our own battles. For the sake of the human race. Bam. Young people, step back. Let's defend the first line of defense. Many 5-person teams of the younger generation were fighting and crying. Someone roared, "Why don't you retreat? Who said you old people have to guard the front line?" Someone laughed and scolded, "Disobedient brats, you weren't even born when I was fighting the sea demons back then. Even if I die, I'm still a charger of the human race. Everyone who thinks you don't have much time left, charge with me. I'm going to die anyway. It's nothing more than a few decades earlier, or a few decades later. I've lived enough in this life. I don't have anything to worry about anymore. I miss my wife a little. Haha. Here I am. We can't improve our strength. We old generation have to pave the way for our Next generation. Our path has been completed, but their path has just begun. If we don't charge, are we going to wait for the young people to charge? I thought I would die of old age in the raging sea, but we didn't. We witnessed the rise of the human race. We rushed out of the raging sea, destroyed the 10,000 scale race, wiped out the city of origin, and entered the wilderness of the sea realm. I've never been so glorious in my life. I've already had no regrets. Kill. Who the F***ck said that only sea demons can charge? Our human race also has human tides. Kill. For a moment, the shouts of the human race rose and fell on the entire battlefield. If the strong masters looked at the battlefield, they would find that at the forefront of the human race's battle line, a tide of people was slowly forming. Everyone who saw this scene was moved. Luo Xiaobai clenched her fists. Although she had expected all of this to happen, when this scene really happened, she couldn't help but feel a little sad. Was the vast sea realm not big enough to accommodate one human race? Why couldn't it accommodate the human race? Luo Xiaobai gritted her teeth, her tears flowing. She glanced at the strong masters of the Central Sea Divine Realm. She must remember every face. When she rose to prominence in the future, she would kill them one by one. Don't you want to destroy the human race? Don't you want to be enemies with the human race? Don't you like fighting? Fine, I'll definitely let you experience what war is. I'll let you see with your own eyes the strong cultivators of your own faction die one by one. Crack. An ancient seed bloomed between Luo Xiaobai's eyebrows. With 3 consecutive explosions, 3 chains appeared and disappeared in the void. Even though the other party was all top cultivators, they couldn't help but be slightly shocked. In the blink of an eye, this girl condensed 3 Dao locks in a row. What kind of crazy growth speed was this? Behind Luo Xiaobai, Lu Qianxi was shocked. The Beast King said, "Girl, calm down. Now is not the time to prove Dao. You have to suppress yourself. Fury can't help you prove Dao." Luo Xiaobai was surrounded by 3 refined stars, and billowing energy surged into her body. In the end, Luo Xiaobai's expression became firm again. The Beast King was right. A strong master couldn't become stronger just by anger. A strong master had to have a strong heart. On the opposite side, among the strong masters from the Central Sea Divine Realm, someone said, "I finally understand why no one wants the human race to rise. This race is simply crazy. I've never seen a race that regards self-detonation as a combat mode." Someone sighed. According to this fighting style, with tens of billions of people charging, if we can't beat their enemies, we'll just blow ourselves up. I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to win today's game. Someone said calmly, "It's not that it's difficult for us to win, but we definitely can't win. However, we didn't intend to take them down in one go. The second wave of sea demons is already on their way. They will arrive in less than half a year. Even if the human race can withstand the sea demons once, can they withstand them 3 or 4 times? Unless these people are crazy and use self-detonation to block the sea demon tide every time." Someone said, "If that's the case, we won't suffer a loss. The human race will lose a lot of people very quickly in such self-detonation battles." Someone said, "But this time, we actually didn't gain much. Most of the people who detonated themselves had no hope of improvement. They weren't our target in the first place." Someone disagreed. I don't think so. This group of people will be eliminated. Sooner or later. Think about it, if these people are eliminated, can the human race still be so crazy? Will the younger generation of the human race choose this method of self-detonation too? If they choose this method, it will break the foundation of the human race. If all the low-level cultivators self-detonate, the further they go, the less fresh blood will be injected. Therefore, if the human race really dares to do this, it will be their way to death. Someone agreed. That's right. At most 3 tides of sea demons will force the human race into a dilemma. In this battle, this sea turned into a sea of blood. The battle lasted for a full 3 days, and the dead humans and sea demons were everywhere in the wilderness. After the war ended, the people from the Central Sea Divine Realm retreated. First, they had come today mainly to see the battle situation. No one was naive enough to think that they could destroy the human race in one go. 7 days later, the post-war statistics were finally reported. Hong Yu was shivering when he reported. Commander. This time, the human race suffered 10.6 billion casualties. Luo Xiaobai felt that her head was buzzing. She couldn't hear what Hong Yu said clearly. 180 billion people. In just one battle, nearly 6% of the human race had died. This was the most tragic war in the history of the human race. Commander, Commander. Xiaobai, Xiaobai. After many reminders from Hong Yu, Luo Xiaobai finally spoke with difficulty. Her voice full of fatigue. Where is Han Fei? I'm here. Behind Luo Xiaobai, a hand gently laid on her shoulder. Han Fei could clearly feel that Luo Xiaobai's body was trembling slightly. Tears flashed in her eyes. Seeing this, Hong Yu tactfully retreated. Without looking back, Luo Xiaobai said in a helpless and low voice, "Did we make a wrong decision?" Han Fei's voice rang softly in her ear. You know, someone has to bear the price of the rise of the human race. I'm sorry to let you bear such a huge pressure alone. Luo Xiaobai turned around and slowly hugged him without looking at Han Fei. Her body was trembling, and she gradually sobbed. Han Fei's face was cold, but his voice was gentle and slow. Trust me. I'll definitely make them pay back 100 times over for what the human race suffered today. In the Thunder Note ancient temple. Having completed the deduction and cultivation of the world-cleansing mantra, Han Fei was ready to start comprehending the Tao of Lightning. Before that, he wanted to see the difference between the so-called Level 4 and Level 5 energy crystals. Name: Level 5 energy crystal. Introduction: this is the only pure energy crystal in the body of a destruction-level ominous creature. It contains a tremendous amount of chaotic chi, vitality, ownerless souls that can be directly absorbed, and a large amount of pure law of the heavens and can be directly used for cultivation. Quality: destruction level. Contained chaotic energy, 3,680,000 wisps. Contained ownerless souls, 13 origins. Contained vitality, 50,000 years. Absorbable. Note 1: the ownerless souls and ominous creatures are completely attributeless and can be absorbed directly without side effects. Note 2: the pure heavenly Tao laws can be applied to any law. Hiss. Han Fei was refreshed. No wonder senior brother Lei Heng said to collect as many energy crystals as possible. It turned out that high-quality energy crystals were unexpectedly powerful. Just the fact that ownerless souls could be directly absorbed without side effects was enough to prove that the energy crystal was a treasure. More Importantly, this thing contained a large number of pure heavenly Tao laws. For the first time, Han Fei knew that the heavenly Tao laws could be obtained this way. Didn't this mean that he could inject more and more heavenly Tao laws into his great Tao, strengthen the comprehension of that kind of great Tao, and produce more laws? Sure enough, this is good stuff. Han Fei couldn't help but grin. He now had more than 500 such energy crystals. If he completely refined them, it seemed to be able to increase his carefree level strength by a lot. After a while, Han Fei decided to comprehend the Tao of lightning first. After comprehending the Tao of lightning, he could take his time to improve his strength. Under normal circumstances, it would take a lot of time to comprehend lightning. He had been struck by lightning every day for 33 years in the chaotic thunder domain and had some experience. However, he certainly didn't expect to master the great Tao of lightning through these insights. Therefore, Han Fei began to recall the lightning technique he had deduced. The lightning body is to attract lightning to temper the body. It's the foundation for one to finally comprehend the great Tao of lightning. The firmament thunder locking technique is a refining technique. It gathers the power of the heavens into a lightning array, triggers the 9 heavens thunder to refine weapons, removes impurities, and obtains the energy essence. If I take ominous life forms as refining materials, I can also remove impurities, so I can practice it. Treasure form thunder hammer is a hammer technique. It requires a strong physique. This can be ruled out. I have many powerful hammer techniques, such as the ultimate hammer, which is much more powerful than this. In the end, Han Fei chose the lightning body and the firmament thunder lock technique to deduce and obtain 2 monarch-level, ultra-quality techniques, respectively. Wild Thunder Tao Body, Monarch Level, Ultra Quality. Introduction: Enter the Tao with lightning, attract billions of lightning. Condense the lightning pattern, imprint the lightning pattern into the bloodline mark, hide the Tao in the blood, and temper the body all year round. With the Wild Thunder Tao Body, as long as you attract lightning to your body, you can activate the bloodline lightning pattern. If you practice it well, you can resonate with lightning, and the effect of lightning resistance will be doubled. Deduced technique: Grand Void Lightning Body. Deduction consumption: 3 million points of immortal chi. Disadvantage: there will be lightning inheritance in the bloodline, which is not a good thing for those who pursue pure bloodlines. Note: the Sea of Lightning is hard to find, and there are not many places suitable for cultivating the Wild Thunder Tao Body. After seeing the disadvantage of the Wild Thunder Tao Body, Han Fei didn't mind at all. He had swallowed countless kinds of bloodlines. In his opinion, there were countless inheritances in everyone's bloodline, and very few of them could be awakened in the end. Besides, his bloodline had been poor since he was young. Didn't he slowly reach his current bloodline level? His parents had even specially severed his ancient human bloodline, indicating that bloodline wasn't as important as people imagined. What was important was still humans. The other technique was Supreme Divine Thunder, Primordial Chaos Technique, Monarch Level, Ultra Quality. Remarks: Enter the Tao with lightning arrays, fuse lightning with chaos. Gather the heavenly Tao to nurture lightning, and refine the Supreme Divine Lightning. With the body as the material and the Supreme Divine Lightning as the hammer, one can temper the law of lightning in the body. This technique can be used for combat or refining weapons. Only those with a strong physique can use it. Deduced technique: Supreme Divine Lightning God Transformation Technique. Deduction consumption, 3 million points of immortal chi. Shortcoming, only those with a strong physique can cultivate it. Note, when mastered, this technique can temper all laws and bodies. Compared to the Supreme Divine Thunder, Primordial Chaos technique, Han Fei actually wanted to continue deducing the Supreme Divine Lightning God. Transformation technique. Needless to say, this must be a divine quality. Lightning technique. But in the end, two conditions restricted him. Firstly, he was now in the Thunder Note Ancient Temple, so it was not so fast for him to acquire the chaotic energy, and the immortal chi was refined from the chaotic chi, so it was naturally even slower. Just deducing these two, plus the world cleansing divine spell, had taken Han Fei more than 130 years. He knew that the human race's war must have started many times and might have been fought many times. Unfortunately, he couldn't leave. He could only hope that the contingency plan he left behind would work. Logic told him that it was very difficult for him to guarantee that he could return alive. If he wanted to return alive, he couldn't be blind. The time he had to cultivate and wait couldn't be reduced at all. He could only comfort himself that Han Song was still there and he should be able to control everything. Han Fei hadn't started to practice these three techniques yet, but he already had an idea. He took out the lightning drawing platform and sat cross-legged on it. What Han Fei could use were the 7 purple Dao proving level lightning strikes. Although he was already a carefree level cultivator, 7 purple Dao proving level lightning bolts were equivalent to 7 monarch tribulation lightning bolts for a cultivator. Han Fei released a purple Dao proving level lightning, and he could still feel the powerful destructive power and soul-tempering power surging throughout his body. Of course, this purple Dao proving level lightning couldn't be compared to the monarch tribulation he had experienced. It should be monarch tribulation lightning for ordinary cultivators. Han Fei needed to practice the wild thunder Dao body first, not seeking to achieve mastery, but aiming to understand the basics. Because he wasn't proving Dao, it took Han Fei half a year to slowly absorb the 5 lightning strikes before he finally made some progress in refining the wild thunder Dao body. After another 2 months, Han Fei could barely get the hang of the Supreme Divine Thunder Primordial Chaos technique. At this time, the power of lightning on the lightning drawing platform had been exhausted by Han Fei. But Han Fei didn't care. In addition to the lightning drawing platform, he had more than 500 energy crystals. The pure heavenly Dao power in them could also strengthen the cultivation of the Dao and law of lightning. Another 53 years later. After all, it was not his origin star and there was no time acceleration, so Han Fei's cultivation speed naturally decreased greatly. It took him 53 years to absorb less than 200 energy crystals. Unfortunately, due to the influence of the growth speed of his physique, his soul power cultivation couldn't be fast even if he wanted to. However, in the past 53 years, his strength had improved significantly. Han Fei sighed. It was time to start the trial. Before that, he looked at his information. Owner, Han Fei. Level, 114, carefree level. Bloodline ranking among the clans in the Infinite Ocean, the 10-086th. Immortal Chi, 1-020, 0. Soul, 999 origins. Strength, 999 star powers. First spiritual heritage, origin spiritual heritage. Second spiritual heritage, eternal darkness spiritual heritage. First spiritual beast, Twin Yin-Yang Sky-Swallowing Fish, Level 110. Second Spiritual Beast, the Emperor Sparrow, Level 111. Main Art, God-Fiend Formless Technique. There was a small hurdle in his cultivation because he took dual extreme Tao. However, Han Fei knew that he was stuck here because he cultivated too fast. And there was no pressure to push him to make a breakthrough. As long as he fought a few more battles, he should be able to cross over and quickly advance to the mid-stage of the carefree level. Huff. When Han Fei looked at the 12 giant statues again, he entered the Hall of Gods. Fearlessly. As a monarch realm cultivator, in the face of such a dangerous place, fear was useless. Thinking too much about life and death would only make him scared. Buzz. As soon as Han Fei stepped into the Hall of Gods, the statues trembled slightly. Immediately afterward, the scene in front of Han Fei began to change, and the Hall of Gods in front of him disappeared. Instead, there were 12 Dharma-like giants scattered in the sky. They looked like 12 gods looking down on all living beings. The 12 giants began to move as if they were summoning lightning. Boom boom boom. In the blink of an eye, the vast sky was filled with lightning, turning into a sea of lightning. Han Fei wanted to see what else the 12 giants would do, but after they turned this place into a sea of lightning, they disappeared, and there seemed to be no follow-up movement. When the lightning struck down, Han Fei immediately felt that the intensity of the lightning was on the same level as the lightning in the chaotic thunder domain. Han Fei couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. In this case, he didn't have to worry about being unable to withstand it at all. If he really couldn't withstand it, he could use the turtle shell heaven sealing array to block it. Besides, he could use little black and little white to purify the power of lightning. Han Fei smiled. While he took out the lightning drawing platform to absorb the lightning power, he turned little black and little white into a yin-yang millstone to cleanse the impurities in the lightning. He had thought that it would be over if he slowly cultivated until he completely comprehended the great Tao of lightning and the law of lightning. However, just one day later, the appearance of a giant shattered Han Fei's fantasy. After the giant appeared, he began to attack Han Fei. The giant formed a strange seal, and instantly, lightning gathered all over the sky. Multiple lightning combined, and the speed doubled as it struck at Han Fei. Seal technique? This strange seal technique could fuse with all kinds of lightning. With this technique, in the lightning domain, his strength would increase by at least one level. Han Fei quickly assessed the power this seal technique might cause. The first thing he did was not dodge, but steal. After staying in the chaotic thunder domain for decades, he was already familiar with the power of lightning here. Perhaps the lightning in the chaotic thunder domain was dangerous, but it wasn't to the point where he couldn't withstand it. Since he could withstand the lightning, he could use it after stealing it. The only thing he wanted to bet on was whether he would suffer a backlash, so he was already prepared to use the great Tao of life replacement. If this giant was some kind of clone of a god, he would definitely suffer a backlash to death, and he wouldn't be able to steal it. On the contrary, if this giant was just a puppet mechanism, he would have a chance to steal this seal. Although he had also deduced the wild thunder Tao body and the supreme divine thunder primordial chaos technique, neither of them were lightning techniques used in combat, but this seal technique was. Puff. Han Fei was vomiting blood and bleeding from his eyes, nose, and mouth. However, when the fused lightning was about to hit Han Fei, it suddenly dispersed. Han Fei's sturdy body weathered through the dispersed lightning. without suffering any additional damage. As for the giant, it seemed to have suddenly been sealed and stayed in midair, without attacking again. Sure enough, the giant has no direct relationship with gods. It's just a passive trial mechanism. Huff. Han Fei was immediately relieved. As for the backlash injury, he casually stuffed a mass of liquid divine light into his mouth and resolved it. At this moment, a part of the sealing technique appeared in his mind. Yes, there was only this move. Combined with the fact that the giant was still, Han Fei was certain that this was the only move this giant had. If this seal was his only move, there should be 11 more seals. It was precisely because this giant only knew this move that it meant that this seal technique would be terrifying. This seal technique must have killed countless trial takers. After stealing the giant's seal technique, some lightning law immediately appeared in Han Fei's mind. The seal technique and the operation of the law seemed simple, but in fact, this simple seal contained many laws. Han Fei hadn't mastered the power of the lightning law to this extent, but he could understand it by analogy. With a little research, it might only take him a few years or at most decades to master it. Of course, if this giant could continue to use this seal technique, he could quickly master it through multiple thefts. If he could get out alive, this seal technique could be said to be one of his killing techniques. 3 seconds after Han Fei stole the seal technique, the giant broke free from the void stealing technique. The giant attacked again, which was still this move, and Han Fei continued to steal. But this time, Han Fei not only stole the seal technique, but also the fused lightning. With his physique, he could completely withstand such power of lightning in the short term. After all, his years in the chaotic Thunder Sea weren't for nothing. His overall strength had increased by nearly 30%, and his physique had improved a lot. While stealing the seal technique and the lightning, Han Fei smashed the fused lightning back. Rumble. To Han Fei's surprise, the giant was shattered after only one attack, but then it recombined as if it wasn't him who was shattered just now. However, Han Fei still noticed something. Huh. This giant is not as strong as I imagined. Its strength is actually in the same realm as mine. This giant is made completely based on my realm. However, why can it recombine after shattering? He did the same thing more than 10 times in a row. As he used the seal technique proficiently and gained insight into the lightning law, the time it took for the giant to recombine slowly increased. So that's it. To pass this first trial, one needs to have a certain level of comprehension of the devour law of lightning. Senior Brother Lei Heng is right. This kind of trial mainly tests the participant's ability to comprehend the devour law of lightning. Bang! When Han Fei realized this, he saw another giant appear in the void with a buzz. This giant statue was different from the first one, but it also formed a seal. However, this seal technique was of a different type. This giant actually accelerated the operation of the lightning law here, causing the density of the lightning to suddenly double. Huh? What did the doubling of the lightning density in a world mean? In a sense, what was the difference between this and doubling of strength? Also, why didn't the first giant disappear? Han Fei's face suddenly changed. He had thought that these giants would come out one by one, but they came out in a row. Didn't this mean that if he held on to the end, a total of 12 giants would appear? The lightning here increased, but fortunately, the second giant didn't use any offensive seal techniques. Han Fei used the 10,000 law sky traveling technique with all his strength while taking the opportunity to steal the attack method of the first giant. He had a bold idea. This might be an opportunity. If the first giant formed seals so frequently, he could also steal frequently. Stealing the other party's seal technique was equivalent to stealing the other party's great Tao of lightning and the way the lightning law operated. As for stealing the giant's great Tao, Han Fei tried it once, but he was immediately counterattacked and had to rely on the great Tao of life replacement to survive. Han Fei realized that although the giant was created based on his own strength, what bestowed the other party with the great Tao was not the giant itself, but a god. However, Han Fei also discovered that the first test didn't necessarily mean there was no way out. The giants frequently formed seals, which was strange in itself. If a person specialized in the thunder law, after repeatedly watching the other party making seals, he would be able to learn it or at least imitate it. Therefore, the real meaning of this first trial was to give the participant a seal technique. It was meant to teach the trial taker a seal technique, but some people couldn't withstand it at all. Han Fei summarized the conditions for learning the seal technique. First of all, one had to be fast, or they would be struck to death. Secondly, one had to have a strong physique and strong lightning resistance. This was the foundation to survive the chaotic thunder domain. If one didn't even have the ability to survive, what was the point of teaching you this seal technique? Finally, it was a test and a screening on the participants' mastery of the lightning law. Only if the test results met the ancient god of thunder notes expectations could one be qualified to inherit his legacy. Therefore, the thunder note ancient temple was never meant for others to undergo trials, but was solely meant for those who cultivated the thunder law to undergo trials. But why was he caught here? This puzzled Han Fei. Perhaps because the two giants couldn't suppress Han Fei at all, it only took less than half an hour for a third giant to appear. As for the seal technique of this giant, Han Fei saw the lightning law between the heavens and earth appear in the form of Tao patterns. These Tao patterns fused into all the lightning here and immediately gave these lightning the power to kill souls. This is only the third seal technique. Han Fei didn't dare to be negligent. He had just embarked on the path of lightning, so he had to steal the seal techniques of these giants as quickly as possible to grasp more usages of lightning great Tao and law. Otherwise, if all the 12 giants came out and each seal technique could give these lightning a new ability, he probably wouldn't be able to withstand it sooner or later. Han Fei didn't dare to be negligent. At this moment, he had been trying for nearly 6 hours. He was deliberately making the giants feel that he could barely resist them. He wanted to stall for time until he completely mastered the 3 seal techniques and the operation and usage of the lightning law. In fact, as Han Fei expected, as long as he didn't show the strength to crush or surpass these 3 giants, the 4th giant wouldn't appear. If Han Fei just kept procrastinating like this, it seemed that the current difficulty was not that great for now. Of course, this was only for him. He had a strong physique, sufficient speed, and the void-stealing technique that could quickly deprive his opponent of their attacks and techniques, so it would be extremely difficult for another person to stall for time. It was almost impossible to avoid such dense lightning. Even if that person had such speed and physique, was his spiritual power enough to support him for such a long time? Therefore, it was impossible for others to copy Han Fei's trial method. He knew this himself, but he didn't dare to be negligent. He didn't know what would happen if too many giants were released at once. Anyway, these three were already quite dangerous. After 3 days of delay, Han Fei had used the void stealing technique countless times. His understanding of the great Tao of lightning and the law was improving at an unbelievable speed. This speed of improvement was like a primary school student reading the entire junior high school curriculum in 3 days, making rapid progress. Finally, Han Fei had completely mastered the 3 seal techniques. This time, he stole the fusion lightning of the first giant and controlled the lightning law to gather one. As 2 lightning bolts shot into the sky, he shattered the first and second lightning bolts. In the next moment, 2 new giants appeared. As Han Fei expected, the first 3 giants were dispersed because Han Fei had almost completely mastered their seal technique, so it took them longer and longer to regather. This was because they were no longer challenges to Han Fei, but they would inevitably appear again. Clearly, there were 12 seal techniques in total. At this moment, the 4th giant made a seal, and in this sea of lightning, there were suddenly radioactive electric arcs, densely packed and covering millions of kilometers. Han Fei's face changed drastically. Did it have a deceleration function? Han Fei couldn't have felt worse. This was a domain-type law. If he hadn't comprehended the first 3 seal techniques, with such a domain, his speed would be greatly reduced and he would definitely be heavily injured. Then, the 5th giant made a seal, and Han Fei saw dancing lightning bolts that had ignored the void and instantly appeared in front of Han Fei. Boom! 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 After being hit 7 or 8 times in a row, Han Fei couldn't dodge it and could only steal it. Then, the giants that were shattered by Han Fei appeared again. For a moment, the 5 giants attacked at the same time, and Han Fei's face turned green. 1 month later, in this sea of lightning, Han Fei's figure flashed quickly. The lightning filled the sky, and he was struck by lightning multiple times every second. Some lightning was flashing. Some lightning was illusory and didn't exist at all, but if you didn't think it existed, it suddenly appeared again. Also, under Han Fei's feet, lightning rings made of thunder arcs burst out. From time to time, whether Han Fei was willing or not, he would inevitably be hit. Even after he broke through the lightning ring, the lightning in all directions suddenly turned into blue thunder and fire. The thunder and fire spread, and the flames carried lightning that jumped. It was impossible to guard against. More importantly, a twisted lightning shadow was chasing Han Fei. In addition to the physical destruction, there was also the lightning impact on the soul. At this moment, Han Fei roared and suddenly turned around. He used the void stealing technique 3 times, respectively, stealing a fused lightning bolt, a lightning jump, and a lightning ring, shattering the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd giant. After doing all this, Han Fei suddenly turned back and ran into the lightning shadow chasing him. The 2 fought fiercely. The lightning shadow penetrated Han Fei, and Han Fei shattered the other party with a punch. The difference was that Han Fei's body emitted a dazzling golden light. He had used the great Tao of life replacement. So far, a total of 4 giants had shattered. Han Fei roared, "The last one, come out." Boom! More and more giants appeared, and Han Fei felt that his body was almost numb. Once his body was completely numb and collapsed, it would be extremely difficult for him to escape from these giants. During this period of time, he had used the great Tao of life replacement total of 6 times. If his mastery of the great Tao of lightning and the law was only at the level of primary school graduation at first, he could almost be said to have graduated from a university now. He knew that he didn't have to wait anymore, nor did he have time to waste. Slowly with the 11 giants. At this moment, when Han Fei killed 4 giants in a row in the blink of an eye, a thundercloud suddenly appeared in the sky. The last giant appeared from the thundercloud, but at the moment that giant came out, it turned into a purple lightning that carried the might of the heavens and seemed to have the power to destroy the world. Shoot! A heavenly tribulation? Han Fei couldn't have felt worse. In the past month, he had felt and learned 11 thunder techniques in total. These lightning techniques were fused lightning, lightning acceleration, soul slaying lightning, lightning arc deceleration domain, jumping lightning, strange transformation lightning, seamless lightning ring, sea of lightning, and fire, turning one's body into lightning, Tao heart-crushing lightning, and cleansing lightning. This seal technique included the infinite changes of the lightning law, including regular killing techniques, soul-killing techniques, assassination techniques, domain-killing techniques, inescapable killing techniques, mental demon techniques, area of effect attacks, purification techniques. Han Fei couldn't imagine that this technique could contain so many changes. He had stolen seal techniques one by one, so he could clearly sense that each seal technique used different lightning laws. Han Fei was almost certain that even the cultivators who walked the Tao of lightning wouldn't use so many strange lightning laws at once. Therefore, when senior brother Lei Heng said that only 3 people had passed this trial in history, he believed him. Although he didn't know who these 3 people were, they were definitely peerless heavenly talents with great opportunities. But if the lightning laws were still laws, what the hell was the 12th seal? The scene of tribulation clouds suddenly appearing and transforming into divine lightning was exactly the same as the heavenly tribulation. The ancient god of thunder note was so strong that he could even create a heavenly tribulation? Just like before, Han Fei tried to steal this seal technique and the power of this so-called heavenly tribulation. When the tribulation lightning surged, Han Fei stole it, but in the next moment, his body exploded into a bloody mist. In the next moment, not far away, Han Fei appeared in his invincible state. He was dumbfounded. These giants were set according to his strength, but this one was different. At this moment, the heavenly tribulation struck down, but Han Fei was not affected because he was in his invincible state. He was just shocked that he couldn't steal this thing. He had clearly sensed the seal technique just now. Wait. Han Fei was shocked. Yes, he had indeed just stolen the seal technique. This meant that this giant seal technique could be stolen, and he could also perceive the use of the lightning law. However, this tribulation lightning was different. This was a real heavenly tribulation. It wasn't a monarch tribulation, but a specific heavenly tribulation targeted at a certain stage, a heavenly tribulation that shouldn't exist at all. Therefore, when he tried to steal the heavenly tribulation, what he stole was the operation of the fundamental law of the heavenly Tao. He could steal the heavenly Tao, transform into the heavenly Tao, and obtain the law of the heavenly Tao, but no one could touch the fundamental operation law of the heavenly Tao. Just now, Han Fei felt that he had touched it, so he exploded instantly. Logically speaking, how could this kind of law be artificially created? But this seal technique had made it. Han Fei felt the power of a complicated law. circulating in his mind. He couldn't understand it, but he could feel that many lightning laws were injecting into it. Dao fusion? No, this is law fusion. Han Fei suddenly thought of something. Back then, the corpse of the ancient human race in the lava giant tribe had thought 10,000 scale monarch as an immortal level cultivator and scolded him that as he hadn't begun to fuse laws, he wasn't worthy of being called an immortal level cultivator. Therefore, in ancient times, at least in the age of the ancient god of thunder. Note, only after law fusion could one be called a great monarch. And now, from the seal techniques he stole, Han Fei could clearly sense that the laws used by the first 11 giants were all fused into this last seal technique. The 12th seal, the lightning of heavenly tribulation, was born after the continuous fusion. This meant that if an ordinary person wanted to launch an attack of this level, they had to be at least a great monarch. Then he remembered that the ancient human cultivator made a law fusion on the spot and bestowed a divine tribulation on the 10,000 scale monarch. Was that equivalent to creating a heavenly tribulation? However, the heavenly tribulation had already reached the level of a divine tribulation. Yes, powerhouses at their level could indeed create heavenly tribulations. However, after the ancient human finished the law fusion, he had to transcend a divine tribulation, and after the divine tribulation, he would become a god. Therefore, the 12th seal technique of the ancient god of thunder note corresponded to the use of the power of a peak-level great monarch, right? Han Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Ancient god of thunder note, are you serious? I'm only at the carefree level, but you want me to learn how to use the laws of the great monarch realm, or even the peak of the great monarch realm? Han Fei felt terrible. Just as he was thinking about how to learn the 12th seal, the 12 giants all retracted their laws and stood in 12 different directions, all looking at Han Fei. Then, the sea of lightning disappeared, and Han Fei reappeared in the Hall of Gods. These giants said in unison, "Trial taker, congratulations on passing the first level of the trial. This is my inheritance, the 12 thunder seal technique. I used to use this art to kill a god when I was only a great monarch." A great monarch killed a god? Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. He had always heard that great monarchs could shake gods. Even the god of war had always bragged that the supreme divine technique was extremely powerful, and could be used to fight a god. However, the ancient god of thunder note was the only one who claimed that he could kill a god as a great monarch. In the next moment, Han Fei saw blue ancient characters formed by Dao patterns of laws not far away. The technique was popping up in Han Fei's head. 12 Thunder Seal Technique, Monarch Realm, Divine Quality. Note, the 12 Thunder Seal Technique contains 11 different thunder laws, as well as the magical heavenly tribulation killing seal technique. The specific laws include the thunder fusion killing technique, speed of lightning, soul-slaying lightning, lightning arc deceleration domain, jumping lightning, strange transformation lightning, lightning ring covering technique, sea of lightning and fire, lightning in one, Dao heart crushing lightning, and cleansing lightning. There are a total of 11 laws. Remember, the ultimate seal technique, the heavenly tribulation killing technique, can only be used by those who have mastered it. Otherwise, you will suffer a backlash. Deduced art, none. Effect, each seal technique can be used independently. The 12 techniques are comparable to 12 monarchs. Note, only when you master this technique can you use the heavenly tribulation killing technique. The ancient god of thunder note actually gave me this technique. Hanfei was lost for words. Using the void stealing technique, he stole the seal techniques one by one and managed to deduce the 12 thunder seal technique with the demon purification pot, but the ancient god of thunder note directly gave this technique to him. It's indeed an inheritance, which was given to me without hesitation. Without hesitation, Hanfei absorbed these laws, then sat cross-legged, and took the liquid divine light. He sat cross-legged for 3 months, before slowly opening his eyes. He sorted out the 12 thunder seal technique and restored himself to his peak state. He had mixed feelings. This was only the first level of the trial. It wasn't too difficult for him to solve it with luck and cheating. However, the last seal was only used on him once. Perhaps this was the requirement to pass. As long as he could endure until the last giant appeared and withstand a heavenly tribulation, he would pass the test. With this in mind, Hanfei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. No wonder Senior Brother Lei Heng didn't mention the first level of the trial. Maybe he thought he would pass it quickly, instead of spending a month secretly learning the 12 thunder seal technique. Hanfei tried to think about it. If he just tried to fight the giants, it might only take him 1 or 2 days to pass the first level of the trial, and then he could also get the 12 thunder seal technique. However, from the beginning, he had made it extremely difficult for himself. The second level of the trial was about to begin. Hanfei couldn't help but smile. He felt that the second level of the trial might be the easiest one for him. In the Hall of Gods, Hanfei walked straight to a stone door in the depths. This was the only way. He was also a little curious. Could it be that the ancient god of thunder note had kept a group of ominous creatures captive? When he pushed open the stone door, behind the door was a boundless sea of stars that seemed to have left the range of the thunder note ancient temple. However, in this boundless sea of stars, there was a lightning mark that stretched out without end. It seemed that as long as he followed this lightning mark, he should be able to reach the second level of the trial. Then, he heard a voice in his ear. The second level of the trial is about to begin. The trial taker has to kill all the ominous creatures here before you can start the third level of the trial. There is no time limit for this level of the trial. Hanfei didn't hesitate. He had an absolute advantage in the second level of the trial. If he couldn't even pass it, it was difficult for him to imagine how others would pass it. As Hanfei stepped through the stone door behind him disappeared, and so did the thunder note ancient temple. This made Hanfei suspect that he had entered some kind of illusionary space and wasn't experiencing a real battle. However, he remembered that Senior Brother Lei Heng had instructed him to collect as many energy crystals as possible during the second level of the trial, which indirectly proved the authenticity of this trial. In the sea of stars, suddenly, thunder rumbled, and the lightning mark that spanned a long distance suddenly shone. Then, the void cracked, and with a whoosh, a large number of ominous creatures rushed out of the void crack. Huh? Is this a void door that connects to the outside world? Hanfei understood. The ancient god of thunder note had specifically let these ominous life forms in. He had never thought of escaping directly from this spatial rift. If it was really so simple, it was impossible for so many strong masters to die here in the history of the Void Temple. Senior Brother Lei Heng would probably ask eldest Senior Brother to get him out. Instead of running for his life in vain, he might as well think about how to kill these ominous creatures. Because in just a short while, tens of thousands of ominous creatures had rushed in. None of these ominous life forms were at the level of the sky-opening realm. They were all terrifying level monarch realm life forms, just like the ones he had killed earlier. Before the void crack was closed, those ominous creatures had already rushed towards Han Fei. And when the battle began, Han Fei didn't escape immediately. He formed seals with his hands. Lightning arc deceleration domain. In the void, lightning arcs flashed, and Han Fei borrowed the great Dao here to create a domain of speed reduction that spanned more than 300,000 kilometers. Then, Han Fei formed seals again. Lightning of purification. Han Fei didn't want to carry the rapid flow of the laws with his body. If he did that, just like before, after only killing 500 or 800 ominous creatures, his body would become numb. As for the 12 Thunder Seal technique, it directly used the laws of lightning. In terms of consumption, if he could use the 12 Thunder Seal technique to directly kill a large number of ominous life forms, this would undoubtedly be a better choice. In the lightning arc deceleration domain, because of the natural suppression of lightning on evil creatures, the lightning of purification had an unexpected effect. Every lightning bolt of purification could take away a terrifying level ominous life form. At this moment, Han Fei truly realized the power of the 12 Thunder Seal technique. If it were an ordinary person, he could at most heavily injure a strong master of the same realm with a lightning strike. It was almost impossible to kill his enemy. Even the weakest monarch couldn't be killed by a few lightning strikes in the chaotic thunder domain. But for ominous creatures, it was a natural counter. Every time the lightning of purification was used, an ominous life form could be killed. The only pity was that the lightning of purification needed to be combined with seal techniques, and the speed of seal techniques wasn't that fast. Han Fei didn't know how many ominous creatures had entered. Anyway, the lightning arc deceleration domain that he had set up was almost surrounded by countless ominous creatures. He knew that he should retreat. Otherwise, once a large number of ominous creatures surrounded the domain, it would be impossible for him to escape. In just 10 seconds, Han Fei killed as many as 37 ominous creatures and took their energy crystals. Han Fei used the lightning jumping and broke out of the encirclement before the ominous creatures surrounded him. At this time, the densely packed ominous creatures, like ghosts in hell, chased Han Fei like flying locusts. Han Fei's eyelids twitched crazily, and he was speechless. This ancient god of thunder note really thought highly of the trial takers. How many ominous creatures had been let in? Han Fei transformed into a body with 3 heads and 6 arms and performed 6 seal techniques at the same time, which were the lightning arc deceleration domain, speed of lightning, lightning jumping, lightning turning into fire, lightning fusion killing technique, and lightning of purification. These seals gathered the lightning laws that filled the sky and bloomed in the army of ominous life forms chasing him. Boom boom boom. Sizzle. Puff. 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 For a moment, billowing black fog spewed out of the bodies of those ominous life forms. As soon as the 6 seals were released, lightning fire covered an area of 300,000 kilometers in the deceleration domain. More than 1,000 ominous creatures were enshrouded, but the lightning laws that Han Fei could gather through the seal techniques in such a short period of time was limited. Even if he made a big fuss, he didn't even kill 50 ominous creatures. Besides, he couldn't get the energy crystals of the dozens of ominous creatures. It was impossible for him to rush into the ominous army to get them. It's intentional. It's definitely intentional. Han Fei concluded that the ancient god of thunder note intentionally designed the second level of the trial like this. He knew that even if someone mastered the 12 thunder seal technique in the first level of the trial, it wouldn't help. The range attack of the thunder fire of the 12 thunder seal technique was very strong. If it were ominous creatures in the perfected star transformation realm rushing at him at the moment, Han Fei might be able to burn thousands of them to death with a single thunder fire. But in the face of monarch realm ominous creatures, even if Han Fei used all the 12 seals, including the 12th seal, to summon the heavenly tribulation, it was impossible for him to cause such a large-scale instant kill. Since he wasn't given a chance to kill these ominous creatures on a large scale, he could only fight and retreat. With his speed advantage, he could slowly exhaust these ominous creatures with lightning techniques. Therefore, this second level of the trial was not only a test of the participants' lightning techniques, but also tested the comprehensive combat power of the participants. With a thought, Han Fei tentatively punched through some ominous life forms nearby with the invincible punch. However, just as Han Fei killed two spatial cracks suddenly appeared where the two ominous creatures died. Then, four ominous creatures crawled in from the spatial cracks. What? Han Fei's face turned green. So, the second level of the trial was actually to test the participants' mastery of the 12 thunder seal technique, right? Once the trial takers killed the ominous creatures in other ways, they would immediately release double the number of ominous creatures. Han Fei's heart shivered. This kind of trial was too disgusting. Only the 12 thunder seal technique could be used. What if others hadn't learned it? But on second thought, it seemed that there was no time limit between the first and second level of the trials. This period of time should be the time given by the ancient god of thunder note to the participants to practice the 12 thunder seal technique. If ordinary people got the 12 thunder seal technique, they would definitely learn it first. After all, this was a special thunder technique trial. Now, if he had to solve these ominous life forms with the 12 thunder seal technique, this battle would become a real protracted battle. If he didn't have good footwork, he would probably be surrounded by these ominous life forms soon. Han Fei imagined that if he was surrounded by tens of thousands of ominous creatures, he would have no choice but to rush out with his invincible state. Furthermore, even if he rushed out in the invincible state of the great Tao of life replacement, it didn't mean that he wouldn't be polluted by the ominous aura. Therefore, it was best not to be surrounded by the ominous creatures. Suddenly, Han Fei remembered that senior brother Lei Hing said that the third level of the trial was a speed trial. Could it be that this second level of the trial not only tested the participants' grasp of the 12 thunder seal technique, but also his grasp of speed and footwork? Only in this way would he have a chance to survive when entering the third level of the trial. That must be the case. The different levels of the trial, created by the god, must be related to each other. The 12 thunder seal technique has an impact on the second level of the trial. The movement technique and speed test and the collection of energy crystals in the second level of the trial will respectively affect the third and fourth levels of the trial. Then, the third level of the trial either has an impact on the fourth level of the trial, or has an impact on the trials that come after the fourth level. There must be a connection among them. After confirming this idea, Han Fei no longer rejected it. Although he hadn't mastered the 10,000 law sky traveling technique yet, it wasn't far off. The main reason was that he couldn't use it for a long time, or he might permanently transform into a law. However, if it was used in conjunction with the jumping lightning and the thunder transformation technique of the 12 thunder seal technique, it seemed to be an extension of movement techniques. Han Fei immediately activated the 10,000 law sky traveling technique. As soon as this technique was used, every time Han Fei took a step in the void, he appeared tens of millions of kilometers away. Every time Han Fei used a thunder technique, when he killed about 20 or 30 ominous creatures, he needed to quickly avoid the besieging ominous creatures with the 10,000 law sky traveling technique. 7 or 8 times in a row, just when Han Fei had adapted to this combat method, he suddenly found a thunder ball in the void. The thunder ball suddenly appeared out of blue. Han Fei was also curious. It was impossible for such meaningless things to exist in the second level of the trial. Therefore, Han Fei arrived in a few steps. Unfortunately, the demon purification pot couldn't read what the thunder ball was. Han Fei thought for a moment and was about to reach out to grab it. He was already prepared to activate the Great Tao of Life replacement. However, when Han Fei's hand touched the thunder ball, his consciousness suddenly changed slightly. He felt that he had turned into a thunder ball, and tens of thousands of ominous creatures had rushed at him from all directions. Han Fei's face slightly changed. He wanted to leave this weird state as soon as possible, but he was surprised to find that he couldn't get out of this state. While Han Fei was burning with anxiety, he felt that he seemed to have split into thousands of clones at once, and his body suddenly appeared in thousands of directions. As for the ominous creatures that surrounded him, they lost their target at the last moment. For a moment, they didn't know where to chase, because at this moment, there were only thousands of lightning arcs extending out in the sky. Han Fei saw this scene himself. In an instant, he felt that he had turned into lightning, flashing in all directions and rushing in thousands of directions. Han Fei simply felt that there were few ominous creatures in a certain place. Then, he suddenly appeared there. A divine technique? Han Fei was certainly not stupid. Just now, he felt that any direction where the lightning arc struck out could be his foothold. This meant that even if he was surrounded by thousands of soldiers and horses, if he used this technique, he could easily break through the siege unless all directions were sealed, or the space where he was now was sealed. Was it a coincidence that he encountered this thunderball? Of course, it couldn't be a coincidence. This was clearly a divine technique, and it seemed to be a one-time experience. The purpose of its existence was to make him marvel at how powerful this divine technique was. Of course, it was impossible for Han Fei to master this divine technique with this experience. However, he didn't quite understand why the ancient god of Thunder Note set up this divine technique experience here. The chase and counterattack weren't any different because of this sudden divine technique experience. This battle lasted for 7 days, and the number of the terrifying level ominous creatures killed by Han Fei amounted to a staggering 92-31. However, the ominous creatures were far from being completely killed off. They were still chasing. But Han Fei didn't run anymore, because he had reached the end of the lightning mark in the void. And at the end of the lightning mark, there was a platform floating in the void. It was a little similar to a floating stone, but the material shouldn't be comparable to a floating stone. This floating stone was protected by a barrier. In the barrier, on the platform, there was a circle of 100 thunderballs floating. Is it the divine thunderball from before? Han Fei immediately rushed onto the platform. Sure enough, the barrier didn't stop him. This place was clearly prepared for the trial takers. So the first 7 days were just the basic test? Han Fei was lost for words. It wasn't hard for him to guess what the ancient God of Thundernote was thinking. He wanted the trial takers to inherit the divine technique from the Thunderball. He had only experienced it once just now. Now, it was obvious that the god wanted him to learn it. If he could learn it, he would be able to obtain this inheritance. If he couldn't, Han Fei seemed to be able to pass the second level of the trial with his own means. However, he didn't know if it would affect the subsequent trials if he couldn't learn it. Bang! 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 As soon as Han Fei landed on this platform, those ominous creatures had already arrived and surrounded this small floating platform. There were at least 20,000 of them. Huff! Han Fei couldn't help but smile bitterly. Is this really a trial? However, after running and fighting for 7 days in a row, Han Fei was also tired. Seeing that these ominous creatures were blocked by the barrier, he sat cross-legged and recovered for an hour. Then he began to study these thunderballs. If he guessed right, this was a training ground, and these 100 thunderballs were his opportunity. From what he had experienced before, it was very difficult for him to learn such a divine technique in one try. But what if he increased the number of times he comprehended it to 100? Perhaps most people still couldn't comprehend it, and then they might not have a chance to comprehend it again. Han Fei was lost for words. That's bull's asterisk it. For this kind of divine technique, wouldn't it be better for you to keep a copy of the technique for others to learn it instead of insisting that others comprehend it? The thoughts of the gods were always elusive, but Han Fei just complained and began his first attempt. Swish! It was like thousands of lightning arcs that suddenly burst out. The landing point of each lightning arc could be used as his alternate path. Then, to reach this path directly, the first ability was to master the lightning transformation technique. Han Fei had already mastered it in the 12 Thunder Seal technique. Secondly, this technique was released and retracted very quickly, faster than the void descending art. The main meaning of void descending art was to send a clone down, which was essentially different from this thunderball. This thunderball divine technique didn't have a clone. Clones could be easily destroyed, but the original body couldn't. The thunderball divine technique only greatly reduced the chances of the original body being found, which was only 1 in 10 million. Han Fei's first research had already made him ponder. The next day, he used 5 thunderballs in one go. He didn't gain much insight, but the demon purification pot directly showed this technique. 1000 thunder flash, monarch level, divine quality. Note, this is a lightning escape technique based on laws such as lightning marks, flash lightning, jumping lightning, lightning transformation, lightning speed, and space. This technique can turn 1,000 into 10,000, and 10,000 into infinite. If you learn this technique, you can gain a great advantage in group battles. In the face of an enemy no more than 2 realms above you, your chances of escape are as high as 90%. If you escape to the sea of thunder, even gods can't find you. Comprehension degree, 1%. Effect, turn 1 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000, and 10,000 to infinite. Note, to learn the Thousand Thunder Flash, you have to integrate and comprehend all the laws, and only then can you start to use them effortlessly. Sure enough, none of the legacies of the ancient god of Thunder Note are simple. This Thousand Thunder Flash is very difficult to grasp. Han Fei used 6 Thunder Balls, but the comprehension degree of the Thousand Thunder Flash was only 1%. Considering this level, after using up this batch of Thunder Balls, it was a question whether he could comprehend 20% of the technique. However, the demon purification pot should be able to help him comprehend more. 20 days passed. Han Fei looked at the last Thunder Ball in front of him and fell into deep thought. With the help of the demon purification pot, he had only comprehended 30% of the Thousand Thunder Flash. And 30% could barely transform 1 into 10. However, from the parts he had already comprehended, transforming 1 into 10 could only be considered a beginner. At this moment, Han Fei knew that when the last Thunder Ball was used up, the spiritual barrier would be broken, and the prolonged chase would begin again. Of course, Han Fei didn't use the last Thunder Ball on this floating platform. Now there were nearly 20,000 terrifying level ominous creatures outside. After using up this Thunder Ball, he could only rush out. The part of the Thousand Thunder Flash that he had comprehended wasn't enough to deal with so many ominous creatures. Buzz. At that moment, the moment Han Fei crossed the barrier, he turned into more than 1,000 lightning bolts, crossed tens of thousands of ominous life forms in an instant, and appeared thousands of kilometers away. Roar. A large wave of ominous creatures continued to chase him. 23 days later. Han Fei let out a long sigh of relief when the last terrifying level ominous creature perished. The second level of the trial was indeed not as difficult as he had imagined. At least it was okay for him, except that the battle dragged on. Besides, the ancient god of Thunder Note had given him this inheritance. In comparison, Han Fei still felt that the first level of the trial was more difficult. During this period, Han Fei only harvested 6,012 energy crystals, which was all he could gather. But most of the time, these ominous creatures came in groups and never stopped. In order to pick up energy crystals, he had been in desperate situations time and time again. If senior brother Lei Heng hadn't said that he should try his best to collect energy crystals, Han Fei wouldn't have taken that risk at all. After that, when he wanted to look for the energy crystals left behind after he killed the ominous creatures, he discovered that, to his surprise, these energy crystals had all disappeared. Just as Han Fei was about to find where the third level of the trial would begin, suddenly, a big hole appeared in the void, and another ominous creature entered the hole. This time, Han Fei's face changed. Wasn't this AF * King Destruction level ominous creature? Earlier, he cooperated with the Emperor Sparrow to kill one, but it couldn't be said that he killed it. The Emperor Sparrow's hellfire burning technique played a key role. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to kill an immortal level creature even if he used all his strength. Now, just when Han Fei thought that he had passed the second level of the trial, an ominous creature of this level was suddenly released. What did it mean? When the ominous creature saw Han Fei, it gnashed its sharp black teeth and said, "Anyone who enters the Thunder Note Ancient Temple shall die." Perhaps the ominous creature thought that Han Fei accidentally broke the seal of the Ancient Thunder Temple, so as soon as it came in and saw him, it immediately shouted these words. Han Fei sighed in his heart, thinking that the ancient god of Thunder Notes trial was too abnormally difficult. Who would have the energy to deal with an ominous creature one level higher than him after killing 30,000 ominous creatures? Swish. The destruction level ominous creature had already jumped to Han Fei's side. At first, it released the demonic sound, trying to corrode Han Fei's soul. Han Fei blocked it with the thunder of purification while turning into dozens of lightning marks and retreating. Immediately, Han Fei summoned the Emperor Sparrow. Seeing that it was another destruction-level ominous creature, the Emperor Sparrow was speechless. Can you find something less difficult next time? Han Fei said angrily, do you think I want to? This is part of the trial. Come on, let's cooperate again and kill it in one go. The Emperor Sparrow was helpless too. His eyes immediately turned red. Hellfire burning. Han Fei said, thunder of purification. Han Fei took this opportunity to grow 3 heads and 6 arms and use 6 lightning techniques at the same time. He thought to himself, this can't be considered cheating, right? Ah. The destruction-level ominous creature was being burned by the hellfire and wailing non-stop. Han Fei bombarded it with sealed techniques crazily, not even using the God-sealing spear. He was mainly afraid that if he used other powers to defeat this ominous creature, another destruction-level creature would be released. When the Emperor Sparrow suffered another backlash, the two of them worked together to kill another destruction-level ominous creature. Huff. Han Fei heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it was an ominous creature. If it were an ordinary immortal-level powerhouse, it would be difficult for him and the Emperor Sparrow to kill it even if they worked together. Just as Han Fei was casting the Heaven Enlightenment divine technique on the bird, suddenly, 2 big holes appeared in the void. This time, 2 destruction-level ominous creatures appeared at one time. Huh? What happened? The Emperor Sparrow was dumbfounded and shouted, where did so many come from? Han Fei seemed to have thought of something. At this moment, a cold voice came from the void again. The 3rd level of the trial has begun. Trial taker. Please use Thousand Thunder Flash. Han Fei. This was the 3rd level of the trial? Han Fei had thought that there would be a time gap between the 2nd and 3rd level of the trials for him to comprehend the Thousand Thunder Flash. But it turned out that the 2nd and 3rd level of the trials were connected. Therefore, the destruction-level ominous life form that he and the Emperor Sparrow had killed just now was not the content of the 2nd level of the trial at all. The ancient god of thunder note had never meant the trial takers to kill the destruction-level ominous creature. Han Fei's face turned green. So it was just his wishful thinking? It seemed to make sense. If he didn't have the help of the Emperor Sparrow, he probably wouldn't have been able to kill a destruction-level ominous creature. If he couldn't even kill it, the others shouldn't be any better than him. Then, how could this be the content of the 2nd level of the trial? As for the 3rd level of the trial, Senior Brother Lei Heng's answer was to run as fast as possible without stopping. Although Senior Brother Lei Heng didn't mention the Thousand Thunder Flash, it was probably because the cost of learning the Thousand Thunder Flash was too high. Once Han Fei encountered it, he would naturally understand and didn't need him to remind him. If he reminded Han Fei too early, it would cause him pressure instead, so Senior Brother Lei Heng deliberately didn't mention it. The Emperor Sparrow said, if there are only 2 of them, we might be able to fight them, but we have to kill them one by one. Han Fei shook his head. No, we're not going to kill them. The Emperor Sparrow was surprised. No? Then what are you going to do? Han Fei shouted, run. Han Fei recalled the Emperor Sparrow. At the moment when the two destruction level ominous creatures were almost in front of him, he turned into 7 or 8 lightning marks and flashed out. At the moment when the Thousand Thunder Flash was used, the two destruction level ominous creatures temporarily lost track of their target, or rather, they didn't know which lightning mark to chase. This was because in their eyes, these lightning bolts all seemed to be Han Fei's true body. But the moment Han Fei appeared, they realized that Han Fei would only appear in one of the lightning marks. The speed of the destruction level ominous creature was terrifying. They could cover tens of millions of kilometers of the void only in an instant. Therefore, when Han Fei appeared, he had no time to react at all, but turned into 7 or 8 lightning marks and flashed out again. After repeating it 4 or 5 times in a row, the two destruction level ominous creatures learned their lesson and began to split into 2 groups, each chasing one of the lightning marks. Of course, they couldn't catch up with the lightning marks at all, because during the working time of the Thousand Thunder Flash, Han Fei could choose a foothold at will in his lightning mark state. Unless there were 7 or 8 destruction level ominous creatures, it was actually very difficult to catch up with him. However, no matter how fast the Thousand Thunder Flash was, the speed of the destruction level ominous life form could almost reach 1,000 times the speed of light, which still put a lot of pressure on Han Fei, because he had no time to think at all and could only keep using the Thousand Thunder Flash. After using the Thousand Thunder Flash about 100 times, another hole appeared in the void, and then, as expected, another destruction level ominous creature appeared. Seeing this scene, Han Fei's heart turned cold. A third destruction level creature came in so quickly? If there were 7 or 8 of them in the end, wouldn't he have nowhere to escape? No, there can't be 7 or 8 destruction level ominous creatures. Han Fei hadn't seen so many destruction level creatures outside the Thunder Note Ancient Temple. Although he didn't approach the Thunder Note Ancient Temple at that time, it was impossible for the destruction level creatures to not notice him with their speed and perception. Therefore, if there were really so many destruction level creatures, he would have been surrounded by them long ago. However, Han Fei didn't dare to bet. It was possible that the destruction level ominous creatures just didn't attack back then. At this moment, without the thunder balls to help him comprehend the Thousand Thunder Flash, Han Fei could only rely on his understanding of the thunder techniques, running and comprehending. 2 hours later, the 4th destruction level ominous creature appeared. Half a day later, the 5th destruction level ominous creature appeared. 1 day later, the 6th destruction level ominous creature appeared. Han Fei felt that he was about to explode. He could only turn into 7 or 8 lightning marks when he used the Thousand Thunder Flash. Now that 6 destruction level creatures had appeared at the same time, he had very little room to escape. If there was one more, Han Fei might make a mistake with the Thousand Thunder Flash and be caught by one of the destruction level ominous creatures. Once he was delayed for half a second, the other 5 destruction level creatures would definitely arrive in an instant. Then he would have almost no room to escape. However, Han Fei also discovered that the interval between the appearance of the destruction level ominous creature was increasing. If a 7th destruction level was about to appear, it would take at least half a day or a day. This meant that he'd better comprehend more about the Thousand Thunder Flash. Within a day, Han Fei felt that it shouldn't be a problem to turn 1 into 10, but he also knew that it shouldn't be enough. Sure enough, after more than half a day, because he had used the Thousand Thunder flashed too many times. Han Fei's comprehension of the thousand thunder flash finally reached 34%. At the same time, he had also grasped the preliminary part of the thousand thunder flash, reaching the point to turning 1 into 10. After another half a day, holes appeared in the void again. However, this time, 3 ominous life forms appeared at once. Han Fei was about to curse that this damn trial was too much, when he found that the 3 ominous creatures that came in later were only terrifying level, which made him heave a long sigh of relief. However, so what? The speed of a terrifying level ominous life form was also very fast. Han Fei could roughly guess the reason. Perhaps the destruction level ominous creatures were gone, so terrifying level creatures were released. But it made sense. If there were so many destruction level ominous creatures, someone in the chaotic thunder sea would probably deal with them. Although the chaotic thunder domain was mysterious, it didn't mean that there were no strong masters here. After the terrifying level ominous creatures entered this place, as long as one of them blocked him for half a second, the outcome would be the same. However, he had just grasped the preliminary part of the thousand thunder flash and could turn 1 into 10, but there were already 6 destruction level and 3 terrifying level ominous creatures here. In other words, he had to appear at the lightning mark route where he was most likely to escape. Every time, precisely and accurately. However, to Han Fei's surprise, the 6 destruction level ominous creatures seemed to have changed their strategy. When they chased after a lightning mark, they seemed to chase after it, but usually, after running for a while, they would suddenly change their direction and chase after another lightning mark. As a result, Han Fei couldn't completely predict their landing point every time. Therefore, 2 or 3 times out of 100 times, he would be caught up because of an error in judgment. However, after being caught, Han Fei still had a chance, which was lightning jumping. He could dodge a second time with lightning jumping. On the 5th day, Han Fei's comprehension of the thousand thunder flash finally reached 40%. Every time he used the thousand thunder flash, he could barely turn 1 into 30. However, although Han Fei was growing, there were now as many as 24 terrifying level ominous creatures in addition to the 6 destruction level ones. In just 5 days, the 3rd level of the trial blocked all Han Fei's paths. When the 30th ominous creature appeared, Han Fei's first reaction was to kill one ominous creature first. He did. The moment he landed, he used the thunder transformation technique to penetrate a terrifying level ominous creature. His speed was not affected, and the next second, he used the thousand thunder flash again and escaped. However, when this terrifying level ominous creature died, a big hole immediately opened in the void again, and another terrifying level ominous creature appeared. Obviously, killing terrifying level ominous creatures was not the right choice. Han Fei couldn't help but think of what senior brother Lei Heng said. Just ignore everything else and run. However, how could he run now? No matter which lightning mark he landed on, he would inevitably meet a terrifying level ominous creature. Even if he could make the lightning jumping and avoid the ominous creature. Again, the lightning jumping couldn't be activated so frequently. He could do it once or twice, but after 3 or 5 times, he couldn't take it anymore. He could avoid being hunted with the 10,000 law sky traveling technique, but the ancient god of thunder note didn't set up such a trial to allow people to use their movement techniques. Therefore, it was either the 12 thunder seal technique or the 1000 thunder flash. There must be a way to break the situation. When the lightning flashed, Han Fei seemed to have initiated sage thinking mode, and his mind was racing. Senior brother Lei Heng probably didn't fight at all during the whole process. He just ran to completely master of the Thousand Thunder Flash. Although he had used the Thousand Thunder Flash countless times, it was still too far away for him to learn how to transform one into 1,000. He couldn't even transform one into 100. When Lei Heng first came into contact with the Thousand Thunder Flash, could he transform one into 1,000? The disciples of the Void Temple might be strong, but they weren't that powerful. Unless Han Fei was shocked. If senior brother Lei Heng had been running, he would have to continuously improve the effect of the Thousand Thunder Flash in order to pass the trial. How did he do it? Buzz. The moment Han Fei appeared, a terrifying level ominous creature had already arrived, but then the lightning leaped and disappeared. When the ominous creature came out, it turned into a lightning bolt again. Han Fei continued to think. Could Lei Heng do it because he had a high understanding of lightning techniques due to his thunder spirit body? If this was the case, senior brother Lei Heng should have reminded him to comprehend the technique properly instead of running crazily. Since he told him to run crazily, he would probably be able to comprehend the technique while running. Law fusion? Han Fei came to a conclusion. In other words, the cultivation system in the era of the ancient god of thunder note was different from the current one. In that era, there was no such thing as the carefree level. And if one wanted to reach the immortal level, he had to achieve law fusion. Starting the law fusion and completing the law fusion were two stages. One represented the immortal level, and the other represented the great monarch realm. Therefore, although he wasn't at the immortal level, he might still be able to start the law fusion. After all, many of the laws in the Thousand Thunder Flash were the laws of the 12 Thunder Seal technique. When this idea popped up in Han Fei's mind, the Thousand Thunder Flash was slightly improved. When Han Fei used the Thousand Thunder Flash again, he turned into 36 lightning marks, buying himself some time. Huff. Han Fei knew that he was heading in the right direction. He had to be ahead of the trial. Only when the number of the lightning marks exceeded that of ominous creatures could he keep winning. This time, Han Fei first tried to integrate the law of lighting jumping into the already operating laws of the Thousand Thunder Flash. At first, it was quite difficult and couldn't be integrated at all. However, after 100 or 1,000 times, the power of the law of lighting jumping greatly increased in the Thousand Thunder Flash, but it made the Thousand Thunder Flash seem to change from lightning marks to a combination of lightning marks and lightning jumping, and the number of lightning marks suddenly reached more than 80. No, half of the lightning marks can't be used as a foothold. Han Fei began to try adding other lightning techniques. However, during the process of repeated attempts, Han Fei forgot that he was still in the third level of the trial. By the time Han Fei came back to himself, there were more than 300 lightning marks and more than 300 ominous creatures chasing him. Finally, after 22 days, when Han Fei used the Thousand Thunder Flash to turn to 1,000 lightning marks for the first time, thunder rumbled in the sky. Rumble. The scene in the chaotic thunder domain appeared again. As soon as the lightning struck, the ominous creatures fled in all directions. But no matter how they ran, those terrifying level ominous creatures couldn't escape the bad luck of being struck by lightning. As long as they were struck by lightning, they were basically doomed. Puff. 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 Han Fei took the opportunity to quickly pick up the energy crystals of the terrifying level ominous creatures that had been killed. When the lightning appeared, Han Fei knew that the third level of the trial had been completed. With the experience of the seamless connection between the second and third level of the trials, Han Fei was already prepared for the worst. It didn't matter if there was no time for him to take a rest. As long as he passed the fourth trial, he had a high chance of survival. At this moment, only the destruction-level ominous creatures were still trying to make their last struggle, recklessly chasing Han Fei. However, this place had turned into a sea of lightning again. How could they still find Han Fei? When Han Fei used the Thousand Thunder Flash again, the destruction level ominous lifeforms completely lost track of Han Fei. Where could they find the thousand lighting marks in the vast sea of lightning? Even if they found them, what could the six of them do? In the lightning sea, Han Fei formed seals one after another, giving the six destruction-level ominous creatures no chance at all. In less than half an hour, the six destruction-level ominous creatures were all killed. A voice immediately sounded. Congratulations to the trial taker for completing the third level of the trial. Please go to the lightning pool and begin the fourth level of the trial. No rest time? Han Fei was slightly relieved. By specifying where to complete the trial, he was obviously given a chance to rest. However, the sky was full of lightning. Although he had mastered many lightning techniques, how could he rest in such an environment? Having no choice, Han Fei could only activate the turtle shell sky ceiling array. Rest was necessary. The third level of the trial had exhausted him both physically and mentally. In fact, the third level of the trial not only helped Han Fei complete the Thousand Thunder Flash, but also greatly improved Han Fei's control of speed. He was sure that his fastest speed was no longer as simple as 300 times the speed of light. He even felt that he could reach 400 times the speed of light. As for the Thousand Thunder Flash, there was still a long way to go. There were actually 3 hidden realms of the Thousand Thunder Flash. One was to transform from 1 into 1,000, one from 1,000 into 10,000, and the other was to transform from 10,000 into infinite. Transforming 1 into 1,000 could only be considered a small achievement. Han Fei clearly knew that his current understanding of the Thousand Thunder Flash was only 60%. Transforming 10,000 into infinite was definitely the most difficult, but he wasn't in the mood or energy to think about it now. Han Fei propped up the turtle shell sky ceiling array, stuffed a few balls of liquid divine light into the mouth in a row, and lay down for half a day to recuperate before removing the turtle shell sky ceiling array. This time, he obtained a total of 7,012 energy crystals, including 7 level 5 energy crystals and 7,005 level 4 energy crystals. According to senior brother Lei Heng, energy crystals were very important in the fourth level of the trial. Was the Thundernote soul refining a way to temper the soul? Although the voice didn't specify the direction of the lightning pool, Han Fei, who had mastered enough lightning techniques, could feel the intensity of the lightning. The lightning pool should be in a place where lightning was dense. And Han Fei, who had mastered the lightning techniques, no longer needed to rely on the 10,000 law sky traveling technique to dodge the lightning like he did in the chaotic thunder domain, nor did he need to rely on the turtle shell sky ceiling technique to provide himself with breathing space. Whether it was the thunder transformation technique, lighting jumping, or Thousand Thunder Flash, he could easily move forward in this sea of lightning. Half a day later, Han Fei came to a place where the lightning was 10 times denser than before. However, no matter how dense the lightning was, if the intensity remained the same, he could transform into a lightning technique and couldn't be hurt. For a moment, Han Fei even felt a little worried, because he felt that the lightning could no longer temper his body. Soon, Han Fei found a place surrounded by lightning in the void. The power of lightning there was extremely pure and couldn't be compared to ordinary lightning. Upon closer inspection, it was actually a small river floating in the sea of lightning. Naturally, it was not water in the river, but liquid lightning. Is this the lightning pool? For the first time, Han Fei realized that he could take a bath with lightning. God knew how uncomfortable it would be if he lay in it. But Han Fei only stood still and thought for a moment before jumping into the lightning pool. Sizzle. Han Fei felt that a tremendous amount of lightning power was crazily pouring into his body. Crack. At the moment when the power of lightning surged in, Han Fei entered the mid stage of the carefree level. It should have taken him some time to stabilize his cultivation base, because he grew up too quickly, but in just a few months, he had steadily entered the mid-stage of the carefree level. His foundation couldn't have been more solid. Is this a trial? Han Fei trembled, but he felt that every wisp of his skin, every wisp of flesh, and every inch of his bones seemed to be polished. Even his soul seemed to be undergoing some kind of baptism. Han Fei was certain that with this level of baptism, it would take him a few months or even a few days to enter the late stage of the carefree level. Therefore, he was a little suspicious. Was this really a trial? Senior brother Lei Heng almost died here. Why? The good times didn't last long. After enjoying the baptism of the lightning pool for about 100 seconds, what should come still came. Han Fei was taking a bath when he suddenly found that he had lost his sight. Yes, he couldn't see anything, and everything became dark. If this was just the beginning, Han Fei felt that the baptism of the lightning pool was gradually weakening his sense of touch. Han Fei wanted to get up, but at that moment, he had completely lost his sense of touch. Needless to say, his nose and mouth had failed one after another. Han Fei knew that the trial had begun, because he could only hear now. The dense thunder rumbled into his ears, unusually loud. But as he lost his inner vision, his control over his body and bones also disappeared. Han Fei quickly tried to operate the technique to prove the existence of his body. But in the next moment, Han Fei even lost his perception of whether or not the technique was working. The law of the Great Tao still existed, but after losing all control of his body, the law wouldn't circulate according to his will. At this point, Han Fei was horrified. If he were in this state, he would probably be killed easily. Han Fei was still conscious, but his soul seemed to be imprisoned in his body. His only remaining perception was hearing. Han Fei knew that this was the Thunder Note soul refining trial, but he didn't expect it to be like this. This trial didn't test combat or law, but one's Tao. Heart. Boom. Rumble. The roars of lightning kept entering Han Fei's ears. Because he had lost all other senses, his hearing was now exceptionally sensitive. He heard that from the birth to the end of thunder, within the interweaving and rumbling of thunder in the void, too many sounds were contained. 4. Example, a random thunderbolt that seemed ordinary produced as many as 3,648 syllable changes from beginning to end. When countless thunderbolts exploded in all directions, every time, the syllables changed differently. This made Han Fei understand that there was no identical sound in this world. In the subtleties, there were too many changes. To the sound, almost infinite. At first, Han Fei could still analyze the sound of the lightning and count the number of lightning strikes. But after 3 days of silent calculation, he felt that he was hallucinating. The concept of time became blurred in his mind, and the noisy lightning around penetrated his calculation of time. In such a case, once the concept of time was lost, the consequences would be terrible. He tried to re-establish the concept of time, but countless ravings immediately appeared in his mind. Xiao Xiaochan's voice was miserable. "Help me, Han Fei, help me and our baby." Luo Xiaobai's voice was cold. "I'm sorry. I failed to protect the human race." The human race was destroyed. "Shiman Linglan, do you know where I am? I have waited for you for 100,000 years, and now I have to wait again. Sorry, I can't wait anymore. I have to go to a very distant place. We may not see each other again. The divine son, Wang Han, in the end, I still can't resist the invasion of time. I'll take my leave first." The patriarch of the war giants said, "Little Wang Han, men should eat more meat. How can you be so small?" Tianqing said, "My disciple." "Boo-hoo. Daddy. I'm so lonely. Damn you, human emperor. Why do we have to let you lead the human race? Ha ha ha, human emperor, you will embark on that path one day. I'll wait for you on the way. Death is not the end of life, because the door of reincarnation has not yet opened. The ominous is coming. Help. Han Fei, Wang Han, little junior brother, senior brother, master human. Emperor, master." In an instant, countless voices appeared in Han Fei's heart. There were too many of them. It was as if all the voices he had heard in this life had appeared in his ears at this moment. Han Fei's soul trembled as he shouted in a low voice, "My Tao heart is firm. How dare you disturb my mind?" Unfortunately, Han Fei didn't know that at that moment, he was already lost. If he could see his current situation clearly, he would know that his hand was waving in the lightning pool, as if he wanted to cut off all illusions. He didn't know how long had passed. It might have been a day, a month, or a year. Han Fei suddenly sobered up for a moment. "Senior brother Lei Heng asked me to collect energy crystals. What's the use of them? Let's see." Crack. Han Fei's soul hadn't been destroyed, so he could naturally activate the energy crystals. With a crisp crack, amidst the billions of murmuring voices, it was like a thunderclap. Suddenly, Han Fei felt that pure heavenly Tao laws and pure, ownerless souls entered his body. Because of their purity, as soon as the laws entered his body, Han Fei felt that the murmuring in his ears suddenly weakened. At that moment, Han Fei came back to his senses. What am I doing? When a person's 5 senses were almost completely gone, he was actually no different from a dead person, because he had lost all his senses of the outside world, leaving only his own world. When a certain feeling was infinitely magnified and specially guided, it was possible that even one's unique spiritual world would collapse. After all the perceptions and spiritual worlds collapsed, this person was equivalent to dead. The appearance of the pure heavenly Tao laws and ownerless souls in the energy crystals injected new perception into Han Fei's spiritual world. Suddenly, Han Fei understood what senior brother Lei Heng meant when he said to collect as many energy crystals as possible. These energy crystals were not used for cultivation, but to impact his law of the great Tao and soul with the continuous injection of the heavenly Tao laws and ownerless souls from the energy crystals to strengthen his perception. Gradually, the heavenly Tao laws and the soul began to fuse. This seemed to be an inevitable process, because the only things Han Fei could feel now were these two perceptions. He didn't know how long it had been. It felt very fast, but also very slow. When Han Fei felt that the fusion of the heavenly Tao law and the soul began to decrease significantly, he knew that the energy crystals must have been exhausted. So Han Fei continued to activate the energy crystals. Although he couldn't feel the energy crystals at the moment, it didn't mean that he couldn't do anything now. The things were there, and his strength hadn't weakened, nor was his movement restricted. It was just that his mind was trapped. Therefore, he only needed to confirm if his body had finished absorbing the energy crystals through the injection of the pure power of the heavenly Tao and the ownerless souls. The good news was that the two powers became stronger again, which reassured Han Fei. He didn't know how many times this process had repeated, nor did he know how much time had passed. In any case, Han Fei felt that the strength of his soul seemed to have changed. Finally, at a certain moment, Han Fei felt that his soul seemed to have sublimated. Like a butterfly breaking out of a cocoon, he saw a sea. In the sea, there was a divine tree with blood of various colors flowing all over. This tree was extremely high. The leaves on the tree were colorful, and blood was flowing in the roots and veins of every leaf. Is this the bloodline divine tree? Han Fei was shocked. This tree was extremely similar to the bloodline divine tree recorded in the history books of the lava giants. Legend had it that at the end of the primordial era, the flames of chaos swept across. In order to pass down their bloodlines, all the races once combined their power to create the bloodline divine tree and transplanted it into the soul sea to prevent it from being destroyed. If this was the bloodline divine tree, was this the spiritual sea? Han Fei looked around, but unfortunately, he didn't see any creatures like spiritual beasts or companion spirits. Just as Han Fei curiously wanted to continue watching for a while, a faint voice sounded in Han Fei's ear. "Welcome, Eternal." Han Fei suddenly turned around and saw a young man standing on a tree trunk, looking at him with a smile. Han Fei couldn't see through the other party's strength, but his strength couldn't be bad. Han Fei asked, "An Eternal? I've never heard of them. Are they very powerful?" The young man smiled faintly. "Powerful or not powerful, this is a very ambiguous description. According to the current strength standards in the sea realm or the Sea of Stars, the Eternal clan is indeed quite powerful. Do you want to become an Eternal?" Han Fei asked, "What's the benefit of becoming an Eternal?" The young man smiled and said, "You will never die and live as long as the world." It wasn't that Han Fei didn't believe this young man, but he directly asked a question. Under the invasion of the ominous, all races will be destroyed. How can the Eternal clan be spared? The young man said indifferently, "The ominous can never touch the Eternals." Shit. Han Fei sneered in his heart. He didn't believe this nonsense. Even the three temples, including the eldest senior brother, didn't dare to say that they could defeat the ominous. The Eternals actually said that the ominous could never touch them. Han Fei asked, "What are the conditions for joining the Eternals?" The young man smiled. "Cut off all your ties to the world, get rid of the shackles of the body, and embrace eternity with your soul." There seemed to be a great magic in the young man's words. Even Han Fei was a little moved by his impassioned words. Han Fei sneered. "Get rid of the shackles of the body? Without the body. What's the point of the soul? Superficial. The young man was not angry, but said calmly, an eternal soul can simulate a body with a thought. The physical body is nothing more than an appendage that can be summoned and dismissed at will. Hanfei couldn't help but roll his eyes. Since you are so strong, why do you want me to join you? I'm afraid I'm too weak for your illustrious race. The more this young man talked, the more ridiculous he became. He was simply a lunatic. Simulate all races with a thought? Who the hell did he think he was? With billions of bloodlines and billions of body structures, how could he simulate so easily? However, the young man smiled casually. It's not that we want you to join us, but that a wisp of your consciousness appeared here. You can consider it. Not everyone can come here. Hanfei said, thank you for your kindness, but forget about joining the eternal clan. My 6 senses are not yet exhausted, my worldly desires are not yet fulfilled, and I'm too vulgar. Well, this is the Soul Sea, right? The young man said, yes, it's the Soul Sea. Hanfei said, bye-bye. I wish you eternal life in the form of the soul. In the Soul Sea, Hanfei had the experience of leaving. He wasn't worried that this young man would attack him, because this young man didn't have any killing intent. He seemed to just chat with Hanfei casually. If he didn't mention the eternal race, Hanfei really wanted to talk to him more. However, Hanfei was still in the trial of the Thunder Note ancient temple. Although he didn't know how he came here, the trial was more important. Sure enough, the young man didn't stop him. He just nodded casually. If you regret it, you can come to the Bloodline Divine Tree to find me. Buzz. Hanfei drew a soul array and left decisively. Although the Eternal Clan was mysterious, he wasn't interested in it and was extremely disgusted at it. He had long surpassed the stage of cultivating solely for the sake of seeking longevity. In his view, reaching the immortal level was only a matter of time. But could one really live forever by reaching the immortal level? Obviously not. No matter how powerful an existence was, even the mysterious teacher from the Void Temple couldn't escape worldly affairs. Furthermore, the eternal race actually asked to him abandon his body and embrace eternity with his soul. What a joke. When Hanfei's soul left the Soul Sea, he appeared in a vast lightning bolt. The next moment, he saw that his body was sitting cross-legged in the lightning pool. The thunder rumbled in the sky and kept striking at the lightning pool. However, no lightning struck his body. However, he could clearly see that half of his body was almost covered in a blue lightning law. Not good. This lightning law is assimilating my body. At this moment, Hanfei moved. The lightning pool was a good place, and the lightning liquid was also good. But no matter what, anything in excess was harmful. This lightning liquid was the essence of countless chaotic lightning. If one took away some of them, they were treasures, but if one bathed in the lightning liquid for a long time, his body would be assimilated by the law of lightning. When his body completely turned into the law of lightning, even gods wouldn't be able to save him. This was a thorough law transformation, and he had become part of the heavens and earth. However, compared to his body being almost assimilated by the lightning law, Hanfei discovered something else in shock. Here, the chaotic lightning rumbled non-stop. Although the target was all the lightning pools, logically speaking, it was impossible for his soul to leave his body in a place dense with lightning laws, right? My soul has finished the law fusion? No. That's impossible. Even if one starts the law fusion, it has to be during the early stage of the great monarch realm. How could it be possible at the carefree level? However, at this moment, he had indeed developed an unknown level of immunity to the lightning law. If this wasn't law fusion, what was it? Although Hanfei had doubts, he didn't dare to think too much. He hurriedly rushed into his body. In the next moment, Hanfei suddenly opened his eyes in the lightning pool. His 5 senses returned, and the murmuring in his ears all disappeared. Bang! Breaking out of the lightning pool, Hanfei looked down. Below his waist, the law of lightning was densely packed. I confuse laws, but the laws can't devour me. Green Jade Stone Bridge. Hanfei was betting that the Green Jade Stone Bridge was not controlled by the ancient god of thunder note's trial. Then, a green jade stone bridge appeared. Hanfei stepped onto the bridge, jumped it off, and landed in the lake. On the entire lake under the green jade stone bridge, electric arcs flashed and lightning law spread. However, these laws were dissipating at a visible speed, as if they were being absorbed by the river. After a long time, Hanfei finally regained control of his body and let out a sigh of relief. It was too dangerous. No wonder, senior brother Lei Hing said, that he almost died here. If I had come to my senses a little later, or if I hadn't prepared enough energy crystals, I might have died here too. Hanfei checked the remaining energy crystals and found that there were only 306 pieces left. Gulp. Even Hanfei couldn't help but feel a little scared. Fortunately, he had collected as many energy crystals as possible. Buzz. Hanfei reappeared. His heart did a flip. He didn't know if it was because the Green Jade Stone Bridge was his original Great Tao, or because the level of the Green Jade Stone Bridge was too high, so it exceeded the trial itself. Without the Green Jade Stone Bridge, it would be difficult for him to disperse these lightning laws. After all, the power of the lightning laws had already exceeded the tolerance of his body and was beginning to melt it. Only 10 seconds after Hanfei came out, the lightning suddenly dissipated, and the lightning pool gradually turned incorporeal, leaving only a silent void. Trial taker, congratulations on passing the 4th level of the trial. Thundernote Soul Refining. Please go to the Thunder Abyss and complete the ultimate trial. The ultimate trial? The corners of Hanfei's mouth twitched. In the first 4 levels of the trial, senior brother Lei Hing had given clear guidelines for passing. However, he didn't mention the ultimate trial at all. There must be a reason why he didn't mention it. As for the Thunder Abyss, a stone door had already appeared in front of Hanfei, which had just appeared out of thin air. At this point, Hanfei had to go in no matter what. Since the first 4 levels of the trial didn't kill him, he had to try the ultimate trial. Hanfei pushed the door open and entered, and dry, murderous, and ferocious vibes of ancient times hit him in the face. Hanfei wasn't surprised at all. The inheritance of the ancient god of thunder. Note was ancient and belonged to the primeval era. What came into view was a dark mountain without any colors in the distance. In the void, there was a dry and somewhat stuffy air unique to the primordial era, and the energy in the void was mixed. Thick black clouds occasionally, tinged with iron red, could be seen in the sky. The place where Hanfei was located was among the mountains, surrounded by many cliffs, and underfoot was a bottomless abyss. Behind Hanfei, the stone door through which Hanfei entered had disappeared. At some unknown time, Just as Han Fei was about to find a mountain peak to settle down and see what the ultimate trial was, suddenly, a spear that was so fast that he couldn't even react in time fell from the sky and pierced through his body in an instant. Puff. At that moment, Han Fei felt that all his strength had been sealed. Spiritual energy, chaotic chi, immortal chi, and soul power couldn't be used at all. And his body, driven by this spear, hit a cliff 1,000,000 kilometers behind him at an unbelievable speed. Boom. Clang. Han Fei hit the cliff hard, and the spear pierced through him, half of it stuck in the cliff. How could Han Fei have foreseen this scene? Wasn't this the ultimate trial? How could this be called the ultimate trial? This speed exceeded the reaction speed of the carefree level. Han Fei didn't even have the time to use the Thousand Thunder Flash before he was pierced through. This couldn't be because he was too weak to be able to pass 4 levels of the trial in a row. Han Fei couldn't be weak. Therefore, if this was the ultimate trial, Han Fei was afraid that he would die. However, after being nailed to the cliff, the expected follow-up didn't come. And Han Fei also observed his surroundings. It turned out that he wasn't the only one nailed to this cliff. Around him, up, down, left, and right, many people had been nailed to the cliff. Han Fei counted and found that there were as many as 605 people nailed here. There were men and women among these people. Some of their bodies were still intact, and some were really unable to resist the erosion of time. They were either already skeletons, remnant bodies, or had turned into dried corpses. But even though these people had died, Han Fei still saw that some of their bones were still emitting a faint light. Without exception, all of these people had refined their heavenly Dao jade marrow bones. Furthermore, their bones were no longer as simple as heavenly Dao jade marrow bones. On their bones, law surrounded them. Clearly, they had risen to a higher level. This meant that without exception, the weakest of these people was at the peak of the carefree level. Many of them should be immortal-level powerhouses. Han Fei even saw 8 people whose bodies were not rotten and could not be eroded by time. These people looked determined, painful, struggling, or calm. Great monarchs? Han Fei's eyelids twitched unconsciously. These 8 people were all great monarchs. This was ridiculous. Even great monarchs were nailed to death here? But Han Fei soon realized that if even the great monarch couldn't dodge this spear, it meant that the root cause of these people's deaths wasn't the spear. That couldn't be avoided at all. Therefore, senior brother Lei Heng should have been nailed here like him back then. As Han Fei expected, about 100 seconds after he was nailed here, those thick clouds in the sky began to gather. They gathered for 3 days and 3 nights without any sign of stopping. Again? Han Fei had already expected what he would face. The ancient god of thunder. Note was in charge of lightning, so it must still be lightning strikes. However, he had already experienced the chaotic thunder domain. What was the point of being struck by lightning now? If he was sealed and struck non-stop, no one could withstand it and would definitely be struck to death. Even senior brother Lei Heng, who was known as a lightning spirit, would also be struck to death. He was only known as a lightning spirit, not a lightning ancestor. After all, even those great monarchs had been struck to death. At this moment, the ruthless voice sounded again, the ultimate trial is about to begin. Trial taker, please be prepared. This trial will carry all your pain. Only those with true perseverance can pass. Pain? Han Fei thought to himself, isn't the 4th level of the trial painful? Enough? How much more? Boom. In the sky, the tribulation clouds appeared, and a purple-black, heavenly tribulation descended. Yes, this was not ordinary lightning at all, but a heavenly tribulation. Putting aside what kind of heavenly tribulation this purple-black, heavenly tribulation was, it couldn't be simple. Also, the tribulation clouds had gathered for such a long time. How many heavenly tribulations there would be? He hadn't even had the opportunity to truly experience the power of the monarch realm, yet he had already transcended so many heavenly tribulations. Puff. A bolt of lightning struck down, and the expected situation of his body exploding didn't happen. However, something even more terrifying than his body exploding and his flesh collapsing happened. Black flames were burning on Han Fei's body. Ah! Han Fei's veins bulged all over his body. This was King Hellfire. Body burning with hellfire was supposed to be a karma that would only be settled in a divine tribulation. But this moment had come in advance. The excruciating pain of being burned, both physically and in his soul, came at him like a tidal wave. His body was so clear that Han Fei wanted to pass out. The feeling of being bitten by 10,000 ants, his heart being cut into pieces, and his bones turning to dust were going on simultaneously. In terms of the soul, it was mental torture. It was like the soul was torn apart and minced. Different from physical pain, mental pain was invisible. Feeling disheartened, hopeless and weary of the world, all kinds of extremely negative emotions had been triggered. And Han Fei, who was sealed, couldn't use any power to resist the burning of the hellfire. And this was the ultimate trial of the ancient god of thunder. Note. Was Han Fei's karma huge? Of course it was. Along the way, every life Han Fei killed was a karma. If you stepped on others to reach the top and others were destroyed because of you, you should bear the pain of others. Han Fei couldn't remember how many killings he had caused, directly or indirectly. Billions of people of the 10,000 scale race had died because of him. Of course, the 10,000 scale race deserved it. However, as the one who destroyed them, he also had to bear the corresponding karmas. The hellfire tribulation lightning burned for 7 days. Han Fei gritted his teeth and endured it. Occasionally, roars burst out of his mouth. He couldn't dodge it, and he was extremely sober. The fundamental characteristic of hellfire was that you had to personally experience the punishment brought about by karma. Han Fei endured 7 days with difficulty, but before the hellfire weakened, the next purple-black heavenly tribulation came. Day after day, he endured hardship. Again and again, it was not the end. Countless times, Han Fei cursed crazily, hasn't the fire of karma burned out yet? Even if one is to transcend the heavenly tribulation, it shouldn't take this long, right? Unfortunately, no one could hear his curses. Even the ancient god of thunder, Note, had long died. At this moment, he was alone in this world, bearing all this alone. A year later, Han Fei was still cursing. His Tao heart was strong. He told himself that all of this would pass. 10 years later, Han Fei stopped cursing, because every time he expected the purple-black heavenly tribulation to disappear, once the hellfire weakened, a new heavenly tribulation would descend. Since cursing was useless, Han Fei could only endure it silently. He believed that if senior brother Lei Hing could weather through it, so could he. 100 years later, what supported him now was no longer his strength. The only thing supporting him now was faith. Xiao Xiaochan's body was still in her origin star. Her unborn child couldn't die because of him. The human race was in dire straits. Luo Xiaobai must be suffering alone. He knew that Luo Xiaobai's heart was actually not that cold. Shimen Linglan was still in the Time Temple. She killed a great monarch of the Time Temple and almost betrayed the Time Temple, so she couldn't be safe and sound. He still needed to rescue her. He had made her wait for 100,000 years. He couldn't let her wait forever. 200 years later, Han Fei wanted to give up. He really wanted to give up. After all, Xiao Xiaochan had reincarnated. At least she was still alive and had a new life. The child hadn't even been born yet. He shouldn't be conscious at this time. Right? In fact, it didn't matter if he couldn't be born. After he was born, would he have to grow up like most people, become strong, and resist the ominous? Perhaps he would experience the same pain as him. Shimen Linglan had already become a great monarch. With her talent, she might have a chance to become a god. He just couldn't bear to let her know that he had died. Perhaps she was the one he felt most sorry for in his life. Perhaps his avatar would help him fulfill his long-cherished wish? At this moment, Han Fei was determined to die. He knew that this was just a test, but this test was too painful, so painful that it almost obliterated his Dao heart. Humans couldn't just live for their beliefs, right? At that moment, Han Fei felt that his vitality was fading. At the moment when Han Fei was really determined to die, the blade of hope suddenly flew out of his arms. Han Fei looked at the blade of hope and sighed slightly. Go find her. Tell her that if I have another life, I won't let her down. However, the blades of hope suddenly glowed. As the two knives slashed, Han Fei saw some pictures he had never seen before in the void. In the picture, Shimen Linglan was bound by the lock of time, surrounded by a circle of mysterious strong masters. The master of the Time Temple seemed to be sitting at the forefront, and these people were judging Shimen Linglan. When he saw soul release alls penetrate Shimen Ling's body one after another, and when he heard from this image that a soul release all could double the pain, infinite anger immediately arose in his heart. Shimen Linglan, the seventh lord of the Time Temple, stole the chaotic clock, killed a fellow great monarch, Ao Wutian, and secretly disrupted the 100,000-year plan of the Time Temple. Her crimes are unforgivable. She will have to stay in the river of eternal darkness for 100,000 years, suffering bone-burning pain every day and experiencing the pain of her soul being torn apart every day. Before the time is up, no one is allowed to plead for mercy. F***ck. Roar. Han Fei felt that his internal organs were burning, and his heart felt as if it had been hammered. An unprecedented anger struck his heart. Master of Time Temple, I'm going to chop you off. Han Fei had thought that he was experiencing the most cruel torture in the world, but when he saw Shimen Linglan's punishment and learned of her current situation, he suddenly realized that he was still far away. If a mere 200 years could obliterate the will of his life, what about 100,000 years? What kind of cruel punishment would it be to release a soul cone that could magnify perception? Therefore, at this moment, an unprecedented anger struck his heart. For Han Fei, this kind of anger at this moment had completely exceeded the kind of compromise where he wanted to die. Han Fei's hands grabbed the spear that pierced him. In his hands, golden light flashed and disappeared like flashing lights. The invincible technique was trying to break through the shackles of the seal. As Han Fei's will became firmer, something seemed to explode in his heart. Bang! The spear exploded. He had been burned by the hellfire for 200 years, but his strength had been growing because of the Supreme God technique. However, this wasn't the reason why he had escaped. The spear that even great monarchs couldn't break. Free from wasn't something the art of invincibility and carefree could break. Free from. What helped Han Fei escape was his anger and determination at that moment. He had more important things to do than die, so he couldn't die. He had to fight. Perhaps because of this sudden burning will, he broke free from the shackles. Buzz. At the moment the spear shattered, the tribulation cloud that had enveloped it for 200 years finally dissipated. And in front of Han Fei, a step made of lightning appeared. Han Fei walked up the stairs. If the karma fire couldn't kill him, what else could he do? Of course, although he was angry, Han Fei still had his rationality. Logically speaking, the ultimate trial should be this hellfire. These steps wouldn't be the next challenge. Sure enough, after crossing the 1,000 steps, Han Fei saw 5 platforms. Among them, there were things placed on 2 platforms. A warhammer shining with blue lightning law was placed on a platform, and information immediately appeared in Han Fei's eyes. Named Thor's Hammer. Introduction: This is the hammer of the god of thunder. It was born from the bones of gods and was forged by lightning in the chaotic thunder sea. In the end, it completely turned into a hammer of laws. This hammer is extremely heavy and has the effect of piercing armor, extreme speed, killing gods, and removing filth. When using the hammer of the god of thunder, the effect will be doubled. This hammer is born with spirituality. Once it acknowledges a master, under the same rules of the heavenly Tao, it can find the owner. This hammer contains a secret technique and can unleash the power of heavenly tribulation. Quality: mid-quality creation, spiritual treasure. Attached soul: none. Effect 1: The lightning technique is indestructible and the hammer is not destroyed. It doubles the effect on lightning-type combat skills. Effect 2: Under the same rules of the heavenly Tao, no matter how far away the thunder god's hammer can find its owner. Effect 3: It can unleash a heavenly tribulation of corresponding strength, according to the owner's strength. After using it, it must automatically gather the law of lightning. You can continue to use it 3 days later. Can't be reforged. Unrefined. Note: this hammer was formed by luck. There should be a strange story behind it. A mid-quality creation, spiritual treasure? The corners of Han Fei's eyes twitched, but he didn't show any surprise or joy. He was just surprised that there was such a weapon between the spiritual treasure of chaos and the supreme treasure of creation. This hammer was very strong, but there was a spear beside it. This spear was also covered with lightning techniques. It seemed to be very strong. Information popped up in Han Fei's eyes. Name: Thunder God Spear. Introduction: This is the spear of the Thunder God. It's manifested from the will of a god and was forged by lightning in the chaotic spiritual sea. It can seal, break armor, kill gods, and eliminate filth. When the Thunder God Spear is used, the effect will be doubled. This spear has super powerful sealing abilities. If you're strong enough, you can seal a god. Quality: mid-quality creation, spiritual treasure. Attached soul: none. Effect 1: The lightning technique is indestructible and the spear is indestructible. It doubles the effect on lightning-type combat techniques. Effect 2. This spear has the ability to seal ultimate thunder techniques. Anyone below the god level can be sealed as long as they are nailed through. Can't be reforged. Unrefined. Remarks, the spear of the thunder god, which has drunk divine blood many times. Han Fei frowned slightly. The thunder god's spear focused on the seal, not its power. It could be sealed as long as it was nailed through. This was too powerful. Did it mean that he could also seal a great monarch if he was nailed through? These two things should be the rewards after the ultimate trial assessment. If he guessed right, there should be 5 creation spiritual treasures here. But 3 of them had already been taken away, and these 2 should be left. This was in line with what senior brother Lei Heng said. In history, only 3 people had passed the trial of the ancient god of thunder note. Since they didn't choose the thunder god's hammer or the thunder god's spear, it was very likely that the 3 weapons were better than these 3. However, Han Fei didn't have any other choices. If he guessed right, he could only choose one of the 2. Otherwise, these 2 creation-level spiritual treasures wouldn't have been left behind. As far as the reward itself was concerned, Han Fei was actually more inclined to the thunder god spear, because this was a spear that could even seal a god. However, the thunder god spear was very similar to the god sealing spear. Most of the time, the thunder god spear and the god sealing spear could be sealed. Besides, how difficult was it to nail a great monarch? It was not that he could pierce the great monarch with the thunder god's spear. He could only launch a sneak attack on a mortal level at most. If he wanted to threaten the great monarch, he had to be at least a mortal level. Besides, the only disadvantage of the god sealing spear was that it was casually refined by him and was still thousands of miles away from being a nature spiritual treasure. However, Han Fei thought that if there were enough materials and he was willing to pay the price of sufficient resources, with the current demon purification pot, it shouldn't be a problem to refine an ultra-quality godly weapon-level god-sealing spear. He might even be able to refine a god-sealing spear at the level of the acquired spiritual treasure. With the return of the demon purification pot's other vines, its refining ability would definitely continue to improve. As for the thunder god's hammer, although it didn't have the ability to seal gods, nor could it launch a sneak attack on immortal-level cultivators or great monarchs, it could launch a heavenly tribulation strike. Besides, this thing could launch a heavenly tribulation of corresponding strength according to its master's strength. Han Fei believed that 90% of the people in the sea realm couldn't withstand the heavenly tribulation he could withstand. Even those who could withstand it would be seriously injured. Therefore, in terms of practicality, the thunder god's hammer was actually more suitable for him. After all, he had many hammer techniques that could be combined with the thunder god's hammer. Compared to the thunder god's spear that was more suitable for solo battles, the thunder god's hammer was a better choice. Without much hesitation, Han Fei reached out and grabbed the thunder god's hammer. As for the thunder god's spear, he would replace it with the god sealing spear. Buzz. He sacrificed some of his essence blood, and a large amount of lightning techniques escaped from the hammer and rushed into Han Fei's body. After these lightning techniques fused with the lightning techniques Han Fei had comprehended, the hammer acknowledged him as its master. Han Fei wasn't very excited after he got it, because he was in a hurry to go out. For him, the thunder god's hammer was just a gift he got by chance. After crossing the 5 stone platforms, there was another flight of stairs behind them. Han Fei stepped up without hesitation. The moment he stepped on the steps, the Scene in front of him suddenly changed. He saw that the 10 million steps had disappeared, and in front of him a huge giant appeared, sitting cross-legged. Judging from the ancient aura and heavy suppressing pressure emitted by the giant, the person in front of him was probably the legendary ancient god of Thunder Note who had died long ago. The ancient god of Thunder Note flattened his palm, and a crystal-clear pearl was quietly floating above his palm. On the other side, parallel to the giant, was a door, a huge stone door. At this moment, the cold voice sounded again, "Trial taker, congratulations on completing the 5 levels of the trial. Now, you will have 2 choices. 1 is to accept the inheritance of the ancient god of Thunder Note and inherit the divinity of the ancient god of Thunder Note. From then on, your cultivation path will be unobstructed, and it will only be a matter of time for you to advance to become a god. Or, you can choose to leave and continue on your own path." This was a multiple-choice question. On one hand, it showed a divine path and clearly told you that this path could lead you to godhood. On the other hand, you had to try it yourself. Whether you could become a god depended on your own path. Generally speaking, most people would hesitate or even get lost when they encountered such a choice. However, Han Fei just glanced at the ancient god of Thunder Note and then walked straight to the stone door. Without any hesitation, he pushed the door open and left. It wasn't that Han Fei didn't want to become a god, but that people of different paths couldn't work together. You were looking for an inheritor, but I wasn't. Even though I had gone through all the levels of the trial, the lightning law was only one of the many laws I had mastered. Han Fei had never expected to become a god from this path. Besides, were the gods very powerful? So what if his parents had become gods? For 9 lives? They still recultivated and were seeking a new path, while he has already set foot on his own path. The ancient god of Thunder Note was very strong and resisted the ominous alone for 3,000 years, but no matter how strong he was, he still died. In the end, he failed to stop the ominous. Besides, the pearl in the palm of the ancient god of Thunder Note was still there. If the 3 people who passed the trial before him had embarked on this divine path, would the pearl still be there? Han Fei even suspected that when the voice congratulated him, it only said that he had completed the 5 levels of the trial, but didn't say that he had completed this trial. Could this choice also be a level of the trial? Therefore, no matter what, he would not take the pearl. Buzz. As Han Fei pushed open the stone door, the scene in front of him changed. Then, he saw the sign of the Thunder Note ancient temple. The half-closed door was still the same as before. Han Fei subconsciously summoned the Thunder God's hammer. Only then did he realize that he had indeed passed the trial in the Thunder Note ancient temple. He almost suspected that this was a dream. Han Fei looked back at the periphery of the Thunder Note ancient temple and found that many ominous creatures were still surrounding it. Swish. Han Fei hadn't left yet, and the Emperor Sparrow had rushed out. The moment he saw Han Fei, he couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. "Thank God you're fine. I once felt that my body was on the verge of collapsing, and I almost died." Han Fei said, "You're still alive, aren't you?" Seeing Han Fei's calm expression, the Emperor Sparrow couldn't help but say, "It seems that you experienced something bad. Why? Do you want to tell me?" Han Fei shook his head slightly. "I don't have time for now. By the way, have we not seen each other for 200 years? Yes." Han Fei frowned slightly. Sure enough, time there was real time, not a dream. He had spent 12 years in the heavenly race, 33 years in the chaotic thunder domain, and 183 years cultivating in the thunder sound ancient temple, plus these 200 years. Han Fei became solemn. It had been 428 years since he left the human race. Han Fei said, "You go back first. I have something important to do. I'll tell you what happened to me when I finish my matters." When the Emperor Sparrow returned, Han Fei immediately touched the void mark. "Eldest senior brother, I'm out." "Good." Eldest senior brother's response was very quick. Although the eldest senior brother only said good, Han Fei could hear some joy in his voice. It seemed that eldest senior brother was also relieved. However, Han Fei immediately said, "Senior brother, there's something I want to ask you." Eldest senior brother said, "What is it?" Han Fei asked, was Shiman Linglan nailed by soul release alls, and would she be imprisoned in the river of eternal darkness for 100,000 years? The eldest senior brother didn't ask how Han Fei knew, but replied very clearly, "Yes, she carries 6 soul release alls, and is indeed imprisoned in the river of eternal darkness." 6? Han Fei remembered that there were 8. Had he neglected something? Or was there something missing when the Blade of Hope showed him the scenes? However, no matter if there were 6 or 8, they were all life-threatening things. Han Fei said, "Eldest senior brother, please help me save her. I'm willing to use the void mark once." However, this time, eldest senior brother, who never refused him, said, "Little junior brother, you need to save her yourself. You have your disaster. And she has hers. We all have our disasters. The disasters you've experienced today can bear fruit of hope tomorrow. Little junior brother, I won't do anything this time. You can only do this yourself." Han Fei clenched his fists. "Eldest senior brother, if I postpone for a day, she will suffer for a day longer." Eldest senior brother said, "Then think about how to make up for it. Only then will her suffering be worth it." After a pause, eldest senior brother said, "I've already given her a void to protect her soul from corrosion and relieve 80% of the pain of her soul. However, she has to bear the pain of her body herself." The corners of Han Fei's mouth twitched slightly, and in the end, he bowed respectfully to the void. "Thank you, eldest senior brother." Han Fei knew that eldest senior brother had done enough. He had personally experienced the pain of being burnt by hellfire. Although the physical pain was also extremely torturous, the pain of the soul could make people go crazy, or even lose the desire to live. Therefore, he had to become stronger now, and quickly become stronger. Whether it was Shiman Linglan or the human race, they all needed him to grow up quickly. At this moment, as Han Fei obtained the 12 Thunder Seal technique, Thousand Thunder Flash, upgraded Divine Brilliance and the Thunder God's hammer, his combat power had undoubtedly soared. In terms of realm, he had reached the peak of the carefree level. His body and soul had also improved greatly after 200 years of repeated tempering. He glanced at his information. The data showed level 116, carefree level. Bloodline ranking among the clans in the Infinite Ocean, the 9024th. Immortal Chi, 40-0. Soul, 1428 origins. Strength, 1428 star powers. First spiritual heritage, origin spiritual heritage. Second spiritual heritage, eternal darkness spiritual heritage. First spiritual beast, twin yin-yang sky swallowing fish, level 115. Second spiritual beast, the Emperor Sparrow, level 113. Main art, God-fiend formless technique. The rise of his bloodline ranking was within his expectations. After the improvement of his soul level, his bloodline had entered the top 10,000, but it didn't rise much. It might be that the further he went, the harder it was to rise. His immortal chi was exhausted because he used too much of it in the thunder. Note ancient temple and couldn't gather it quickly, but this wasn't important. The improvement of his soul and physique exceeded Han Fei's expectations. It must be the result of hellfire burning. Otherwise, under normal circumstances, it would be incredible if his strength could be improved by 200 points. The improvement speed of Little Black and Little White refreshed Han Fei's understanding again. He had to suffer so much to reach the peak of the carefree level, but these two little guys just 8 stars and had almost reached his level. He was not surprised at the improvement of the Emperor Sparrow. After all, it was not difficult to prove Tao. The Emperor Sparrow had inherited memories, so there was no barrier to his cultivation. In fact, if he gave the Emperor Sparrow enough energy crystals, the latter should be able to improve faster. After all, this trial took too long and ruined many of his plans. If his strength didn't increase, it would be a huge loss. Buzz! Han Fei jumped out of the Thunder Note ancient temple, and those ominous creatures immediately chased after him. 1,000 lightning strikes flashed in the air. These ominous creatures lost their target for a moment, but when Han Fei stood still, they immediately chased after him. Among the ominous creatures that were chasing him, there were still destruction-level ominous creatures chasing over. It seemed that not all destruction-level ominous creatures had entered the Thousand Thunder Flash trial. Perhaps 6 destruction-level ominous creatures were the limit of the Thousand Thunder Flash trial. However, there weren't many destruction-level ominous creatures chasing him. This time, there were only 3, which were still within Han Fei's tolerance. Han Fei didn't return to the human race immediately. It had been more than 400 years. If something happened to the human race, something would have happened long ago. But if the human race was still around, they should be extremely short of resources at this time. He had a lot of resources, but there weren't many resources like level 4 energy crystals. And level 4 energy crystals could quickly help the strong rise among the humans. Therefore, the first thing Han Fei did after leaving the Thunder Note Ancient Temple was to hunt terrifying level ominous creatures. This hunt was completely different from the previous battles. In the trial, he couldn't use other abilities, but after leaving the Thunder Note Ancient Temple, free from constraints, Han Fei's combat power finally emerged. Thousand Thunder Flash. Extreme Hammer. Han Fei brandished the Thunder God's hammer and ran while fighting. Even 3 destruction-level ominous creatures couldn't shake him at all.